enough of Keanu. Yes, it's true. Whenever we see you in another movie, get to wishing that you were in them all. Our hearts cry out, Keanu, haven't aged a day in 30 years. Now we're looking back on your career. Can't get enough of Keanu.
Welcome to Can't Get Enough of Keanu, the internet's premier Keanu Reeves podcast, in which we explore the filmography of that great, ageless, enigmatic Canadian actor, movie by movie. I'm Patrick Willems.
I'm Jake Torpey.
My name is Matthew Torpey.
Guys, we're back, episode 2.
Woo!
Wow, you might have been afraid that it was going to be a one and done.
John Wick and we quit.
That we recorded one perfect episode.
Dude, Wick
Just
and quit it.
A horrible interpersonal fight happens on mic. Fucking out of here! Just hear chairs being thrown and stuff. Like, okay, guys, so I guess we're not going to talk about Keanu anymore.
Yeah, we could get enough of him, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I can get enough of fucking Patrick and his fucking bullshit.
And but we're back. We're back to continue the story. And if for some bizarre reason you skipped the first episode and are joining us for this episode,
And that would be so weird.
really, really weird. If you did that, don't ever talk to us in real life because you're probably a real creep, and we'd rather not know you. But
Yeah.
anyway, we'll explain what we're doing. We are beginning this podcast with the John Wick trilogy, and then after Chapter 3, Parabellum, we are leaping backwards through time to start Keanu's career from the very beginning. But because the task of discussing John Wick Chapter 2 is such a huge task, such a huge. I mean, it's almost like John Wick's impossible task.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it alone.
It's insurmountable.
Yeah, but instead of using a marker,
We've got something better.
we just brought in friend of the show, film critic, filmmaker, friend of ours, Siddhant Adlakha. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm apparently an assassin in this metaphor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Pat's been working on his transitions. They're getting things have. I will say, I hope people are appreciating the effort, the newfound effort in Patrick, to make cool, I guess apropos film references.
Oh, he's
That's
finally
true.
trying. He's finally trying.
Finally.
Yeah, I mean, look,
once.
that whole Josh Hartnett podcast, that was like a test run.
Yeah.
But I got it now.
Leveled up.
It's also, I just care a lot about John Wick, and so these are these are also just assassin metaphors are so easy.
Well,
So wait. So Siddhant, tell us about why you wanted to talk about John Wick here.
Well, the first John Wick, I think, is a perfect movie, and that's a very short list for me. Perfect movies. I would put it alongside maybe Jaws and Die Hard and the first Magic Mike. But but when I say perfect movie, I don't necessarily mean a movie that I love. John Wick I do love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it is the perfect version of what it's trying to be. But the reason I wanted to talk about John Wick 2, or rather John Wick Chapter 2, these names keep getting more
don't get it
complicated.
twisted.
Don't get it twisted
Come on,
at all.
man.
Is because that in and of itself becomes a conversation about John Wick and why the first John Wick works. Because
Yes.
the stuff that works in John Wick Chapter 2 works in the first one. The stuff that doesn't, it feels a lot like things that it tried to one-up from the first one or replicate from the first one that doesn't quite do as well. So in the process, I get to talk about John Wick.
Yeah. No, I mean, you get the. I mean, really, this is like the Hannah Montana of episodes, right? Because it's the best of both worlds.
I don't get the reference. I know Hannah Montana, but I don't understand Best of Both Worlds.
She had like 2 identities,
Yes, I know that too.
and
Yeah.
I believe the theme song.
is Best of
Is
Both
it-
Worlds?
Yeah, I think I saw an episode of the show once when I was in. I don't know. Was it on when I was in high school?
And it was just seared into
Anyway,
your brain.
I might have gotten that reference wrong. I hope
Yeah.
I
Wait,
didn't.
what is what is the one where she's a cartoon?
That's Hannah Montana.
No, that's
Lizzie McGuire.
Lizzie McGuire.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so that's Lizzie
Easily
McGuire.
confused with
But
Hannah
is her?
Montana.
Does she
I
have a
feel like.
separate reality where she is a cartoon for real?
No, because in Lizzie McGuire, her cartoon self is just like her internal monologue.
Right,
It's
her
just her interior
exposition
thoughts.
person.
But Hannah Montana is like she's a regular girl. Is her name Miley? And then she like has another identity that is her pop star persona.
Right, which
And
is
so
Hannah Montana.
It's
And it's
basically,
not iCarly.
And it's not even Stevens.
Damn it, that's the other one.
I genuinely don't know what iCarly is about. Did anyone here
It's
know?
about a girl with a cell phone, I think.
I'm pretty sure.
Do you know?
No. That's my only input. I'm sorry.
elaboration.
Don't even give
no,
him
no,
more.
no thoughts on Disney Channel original shows.
Awkward.
Oh no, we got. Oh no.
Whoa, you quoted all of them
Yeah.
in one word.
Dude, that was so Raven of you.
Yeah. Seriously.
totally-
Wait, actually, okay.
That's so Raven.
Backing up, I have an important question. So,
You're right.
on our previous podcast, we had this one recurring segment that the fans just loved. They were always clamoring for more.
Yeah,
We
it was
call-
like a Beatles style. We had to run around outside and like hide behind newspapers.
because these crazy teenage kids, they always wanted more Hartnett histories, where we
Yeah.
would discuss the guest's history with Joshua Daniel Hartnett. We don't have a name yet for this segment. Listeners, feel free to like pitch us ideas. But Siddhant, can you tell us about your history with Keanu Reeves? When did you first encounter Mr. Reeves?
Just on the street one day, we just ran into each other. No, my first.
Wait, honestly, I've heard a lot of stories about that happening.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Well, I hope it happens to me someday. My first Keanu Reeves encounter would have probably been The Matrix, or rather the trailer for The Matrix, which would have been '99. But I didn't actually end up watching the movie until it played on television. I think maybe 2002 or 3, sometime before the sequels came out.
Okay.
So I would say my first real Keanu experience was probably all 3 Matrices in the same year, and shortly after that, The Lake House.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
What a
Hell
nice
yeah,
Coda
dude.
film.
That was my first post Matrix Keanu.
Wow. And so what was your feeling about Keanu? Because I've noticed a lot of the cultural conversation around Keanu has evolved over time, and his reputation as an actor has evolved over time. I've witnessed my friends' feelings about him evolve over time. I'm curious, have yours, or like, how did you first think of him as an actor?
It's definitely There's definitely been an evolution there. I didn't really have any strong feelings either way at first because I didn't have any strong opinions on anything at the time.
Fair enough.
Fair. Damn.
But then
You saw The Matrix and were like, eh.
no, I had strong opinions on The Matrix, not necessarily on him as an actor.
Right.
Got you.
But then this was also I think maybe mid 2000s is when I started getting into like, ooh, what is method acting about? What does Daniel Day-Lewis do?
Yeah.
And
you
at that
blew
point,
on past Keanu, it sounds like.
sorry.
You just blew on past Keanu.
Yeah.
You were like, let's get to more
skipped
serious
it, yeah.
fodder here.
So I think I very quickly developed a negative impression of Keanu just because my thoughts on acting, my feelings on acting at the time were very limited. Because it was all about how over the top emotional can it be.
Right, like how transformative is it?
Yeah,
Is it
exactly.
like, are you becoming a new person?
Are you living in the woods for 6 weeks at a time and wearing
That's acting.
wearing
Better.
wearing era appropriate underwear
Exactly. Yeah, that's acting.
and area appropriate, I suppose.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, as time went on, I think John Wick, the first one, was probably when my own personal, I guess, Keanu-sence happened, and I realized, wait,
Nice.
there's something more going on here. And then he did films like The Bad Batch, Neon Demon, where he had smaller roles, but he was doing something very interesting with his brand of stillness.
We could call it
Yeah.
your come to Keanu moment.
Sure.
We could. Wait, is that like a name for our segment?
That
Like,
would be the segment
What was
name.
your come to Keanu moment?
Yeah.
Well, there's
know
a
what?
come to Keanu moment, but then there's your Keanu encounter the first time you saw him. Because they could be two separate moments.
When
like-
did you come around
yeah.
to him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't.
So we got a Bad
Argue
Batch
with
come
me.
to Keanu.
Are you arguing with me?
I am arguing with you.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm sorry I had to see us like
You know,
that.
This is really interesting to hear because your initial take on him, like I had a bunch of friends in college who had either they did theater or they had some like usually like theater experience, and they were, as a whole, so dismissive of Keanu because it's like, oh, he's so wooden. He's like he always plays the same kind of role, and I think that comes from that idea of acting as like, well, the most acting is the best acting.
Yeah, and I was a theater person as well, so for me,
Fucking theater.
I know, right?
Ruining whole generation.
But no, he would have fitted perfectly, I think, in the silent era. Not that he isn't good with dialogue, but he just has that kind of presence about him.
Yeah.
I think he's a really strong physical actor in terms of he knows how to move on camera, how to like. It might seem like a silly thing to talk about, but how to pose himself, how to position himself, and little things just like turning. And but he has like a fascinating run. And I think he's and it's interesting seeing him kind of turn into, kind of like not quite Tom Cruise levels of like the insane things they do, but Keanu is 50 years old and doing really elaborate action and doing like a pretty impressive amount of stunt work himself. And I don't think anyone really guessed that like this guy, age 50, is going to be known as one of the most like physically dedicated performers in modern film.
Yeah, in a weird way, it kind of ties back into your interest in Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Because Keanu somehow, like, it just slowly uncovered itself over the years, would actually put in a ton of effort to, like, say, I think there was some interview he was talking about John Wick 3. We're not talking about that now, but just as an example, he rides a horse in that movie. And
Right.
He put in all the effort to ride horses and learn how to do that all the way back, like he was saying in 1993 or whatever, when he shot the movie Little Buddha. And he had
I'm
to
so
ride
excited to
horseback
get to
for that
Little
movie.
Buddha.
And he said he spent like weeks training on a horse just so he could do like, what, 1 or 2 shots probably with like the most, I don't know.
So he just had it in
Physical
him the whole
presence.
Time.
So, yeah,
or even
he was
being in My
always-
Own Private Idaho, he was like a big motorcycle guy, and he had one scene where he had to ride a motorcycle around with
Yeah, and
River
he-
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like he put in the work for it. And it's just, he's kind of unassumingly putting in the work
He's been known for
as
that
opposed
for-
to people with more high profile.
Right. And I remember the famous thing was
Notoriety.
because the Matrix, and we'll get to this in our Matrix episode. It was such a big deal. It changed the way that action was done in Western films because they spent 4 months just training the actors to how to do martial arts. And Keanu had just gotten surgery on his spine right before that. Like, have you seen the footage of him like just doing the kung fu training?
No.
He's doing it all in a neck brace.
That hole in the back of his neck in the Matrix, that was real.
Yeah. Everyone
Yeah.
else had to put them on because to deal
Method
with that.
acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wrote it in there for him. But yeah, no, he like could not physically kick for months because of his spinal surgery.
What happened? Did he get a motorcycle accident?
No, it wasn't that. It was that he had this thing developing over time. I think like 2 of his like vertebrae like fusing together.
Jesus Christ.
And
Oh
so
my
he had to
God.
get this like really big surgery like right before training started. And then he's training, but he can't kick. And he's in a neck brace learning to do kung fu.
Imagine if your spine fused right before doing an epoch-defining action film. Like, come on. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then they go
Props
back
to that guy.
They go back to Will Smith and they're like, "Will, can you do it now?"
He's like, haha, no.
But anyway,
What?
we're here to talk about John Wick Chapter 2.
Yeah.
And
are.
so wait, Siddhant, tell us about when you first saw John Wick Chapter 2. I believe it came out February 2017.
I think
There's
so.
our boy.
I was in India at the time, so I think it may have come out a couple of weeks later. And thankfully, it wasn't too badly censored because there'd just been a changeover in the censor board or the Central Board of Film Certification.
And you've written at length about the Indian censor board.
Oh gosh,
This is interesting. I don't know much about
I've
this.
interviewed the guy who was in charge of it until about 2017, and it was the strangest 45 minutes of my life.
I've read this article.
Yeah,
It's we'll link to it in the show notes. It's definitely worth reading.
Yeah, but thankfully there wasn't too much censored in this one. I think just the scene where Gianna, is that her name?
Gianna, yes.
Yeah, where she kills herself. Spoiler alert, I guess.
Look, our
That's what the
listeners
whole
know what
show
they're
is.
Yeah. Don't spoil the end game
for a
of
2-year-old
Gianna.
movie.
Just the scene, just the shot where she slits her wrist. Just that bit was censored. So a lot
Just
of
too violent.
yeah, but all the gun stuff was still in there.
All the headshots.
Yeah, it's arbitrary at the end of the day. So I caught 99.9% of the movie. I actually did it as a double feature with Silence because they both came out on the same day over there.
What a
Yeah.
beautiful double feature. What
Yeah.
came first?
I don't remember, but they were both very, very religious experiences. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I still haven't seen Silence.
It's difficult. It might be one of my favorite movies ever.
Really?
But it is a very difficult watch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a one-time. Yeah, I had the same feeling. It's like a one-time watch, and you're like, when am I going to be in the mood to watch this again?
It's
that-
like an interrogation.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing because it had such a weird theatrical release. You guys remember this?
What theatrical release?
Right. That was it. Didn't they not release a trailer for it until a month before it came out?
Yeah.
And it was a new Scorsese movie coming out during awards season with big movie stars in it.
Yeah, it had no backing.
Right. And I was never sure when it actually was released. And then I saw like, oh, it's actually in theaters now. And I was like, well, I think I can catch it in like 5 days. And then 5 days later, it was not in theaters anymore. and I missed it. And now it's just sitting there on Amazon Prime. And I'm always just like,
Beckoning you.
Yeah.
am I in the mood?
Silence.
Nope.
That one was censored much more than John Wick 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
A lot of the religious references were.
It's okay. I'm fascinated by what gets censored because I would assume a movie like John Wick would get hacked apart because it's just like endless violence.
I don't even know, man. Like jump scares get censored sometimes. It's,
Too
like,
spooky.
Yeah, like in The Conjuring 2, like there was like it kept cutting to like after the jump scare when the sound effect was dying down, like.
I wish I could see some of these spots because it
Just
I
people
feel like it'd be
screaming
so
at
real.
nothing.
And I assume they do it inelegantly. Like, do they literally just like hack out a couple seconds?
Yeah, so it's not actually the censor board that does it. They just, in their words, they only make recommendations. But if you don't take what they say, they have they won't release your movie.
Yeah.
We strongly suggest.
But yeah, no, it's just like that little bit will be cut out.
Oh, that's so.
Because for a minute it sounded like maybe the theme was more like in the way a lot of censor boards work, which is like highly moralizing, but in the sense of you can go see a big spectacle that's cartoonishly violent or whatever, but as soon as there's any sort of like suicide or heavy religious references or things that are like anti-religion depending on where you're at, like that kind of stuff can affect the actual kind of, I don't know, emotional changes they don't want in their populace or something.
Yeah.
It depends
Very
because
weird.
sometimes the violent stuff does get censored. Like when I watched The Hateful Eight, thankfully I watched it in the US first. I watched it again in India just to see what they had done to it.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where like a character just disappears from the movie without his death being shown on screen.
What?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Does Samuel L. Jackson still get his dick sucked?
I don't even remember. Like I think there was like 20 minutes cut out of it.
And then shot off.
And then shot off, yeah.
No, I think they may have cut that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now
That seems
okay,
appropriate.
What is that the weirdest thing you've ever seen happen with the Indian censor board?
Which one? Hateful Eight?
The Hateful Eight one.
No, it was actually another instance in Hateful Eight where they censored the first time someone says bitch. They didn't censor it the second time. Then the next 50 or so times they censored it. And then they censored someone saying sales pitch.
Okay.
Sales pitch.
Sales pitch. That was stupid.
That was a rush.
Yeah.
Quote.
They the weirdest thing, they have this thing against showing alcohol in movies. Like you can't advertise for alcohol in India.
Okay.
So which is why a lot of alcohol companies end up like going into other markets and buying other products. Like Kingfisher, which is one of our biggest beers, you'll never find an ad for the beer, but they also have an airline.
That's so weird.
What a
Yeah.
good
What?
business decision.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Look, the guy is apparently like absconding because of some fraud stuff. That's a whole other podcast episode.
Oh, that's why he was
Anyway,
building an airline.
point
so he
being,
could fly away.
So whenever there's an alcohol bottle on screen, the label will be blurred out.
Interesting.
But in
Just natural blur in the environment.
in the third XXX movie, one character very
Wait,
explicitly,
you mean the finest film of our time?
yeah, whatever it's called, XXX, Spirit of
Return of Xander
Vengeance or
Cage.
whatever. I'm just gonna call it Spirit of Vengeance.
we-
I do love the movie.
Have you guys seen The Return of Xander Cage?
It's amazing.
No, but the title is
It's like if
scandalous,
Kanye
too.
West were an action movie.
But I will say,
no.
big missed
Deeply
opportunity
problematic.
to have a fake beer that's trace that case. That would be funny.
That would be funny.
But
Missed opportunity.
I want to watch this movie with you guys. Look, when Vin Diesel recruits his awesome, like, badass covert ops team for this mission, one member is just a DJ.
You were telling me,
his job is to play music.
and just
That's his job.
get everyone fucking fired up.
Yes.
But anyway, so all the alcohol is censored, but one character very explicitly does not drink alcohol and orders like a cranberry soda or something like that, and they blur that out as well.
So I think
Oh my goodness.
It looked like wine.
I think the lesson here is that whoever was in charge of
That's
this
the note.
was like not paying close attention and then saw a beverage and then panicked and just blurted out without
Yeah.
seeing what it was.
No, and I asked the chief of censorship, like point blank, in that interview, like, what was the deal with that? It turns out he doesn't watch the movies himself. So
I don't know what the deal with that is.
man.
Yeah.
I'm just a freaking guy.
You tell me what the deal is. He just throws it back at you.
Now I want to see it just a movie.
We're against
about
drinking
about
of
someone
any
working
kind.
at the Indian Censor Board.
No
I'm
hydration.
gonna make it. I'll
Can't
make
drink
it.
milk.
Please do. I feel like that's like
Looks
just a
like
great
cum.
comedy waiting to happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Can't drink
Yeah.
water. Looks like vodka.
Yeah, you. So we're just against drinking.
Yeah, no liquids.
anything on
It's just
film.
liquids.
I mean, once
Yeah.
they censored a movie they didn't release a movie at all because it was too women centric.
Wait, which movie was this?
Lipstick Under My Burqa, which eventually got a release, but
I remember that was a-
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Just because it was too women centric. That
It
was the
was-
actual note.
Yeah, it was too. That was the reason they gave.
Just a bunch of dudes in there. Where are all the guys?
Wait, is there a thing if it passes the Bechdel test, then it is out?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
For all I know.
Oh my
I
goodness.
came here to see
Then they have
fellas.
then they have these weird things where, like, in a scene, if someone calls a woman a bitch, they'll censor that part. But if he's like beating the shit out of her while calling her a bitch, they'll leave the violence in. So
And then
that's a real example.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what's funny though? That you have this censor board that you're talking about, but I mean we have stuff like that in the States too. I mean I've mentioned before that I work on video on demand services and I
Yes.
work with cable companies, big American cable companies, and we had to actually, apropos to the episode, we had to cut a promo for John Wick 2 when it came out. And we're working with all these large cable organizations, and we're sending them these spots that Lionsgate is delivering to us of John Wick Chapter 2. And the movie is just John Wick shooting people in the head. That's like 80% of the footage of the film. And so the spot obviously highlights that because they're trying to sell to people that want to see that in the movie. But these cable companies are stymied by these, like, you know, content restrictions that they have to deal with. So when we give them the spot and Keanu Reeves is blasting people's faces off, they're like, this is great. They know it's a huge box office draw. They know it's going to be a big VOD sell, so they can't not run it, but they also can't have any guns. So we were thrown into this strange position of cutting in-house a John Wick Chapter 2 spot that had no shots of Keanu Reeves shooting anybody. And it became like a laughing joke in the company as we were like cutting the spot, because it was just like pictures of like Keanu like looking at like Common, or like Keanu looking at like, you know, like some other bad character that he's about to shoot, and then like his hand reaching towards his gun, then it would just cut to another scene really quickly, and the spot became like unintelligible. But then that's what we had to run, because it was like the same, by the same token, they just weren't gonna not run it, because it was like, well, everybody is going to go purchase this.
Yeah.
I love the idea of some like corporate functionary who
Yeah.
he's like, just like imagine him panicking in the middle of this like rock and a hard place decision, and he's just like, I want the money. Can't show the guns.
Want money, but
Well,
no
also speaking
gunny.
of Keanu Reeves, as we should,
Yeah.
another like for television edit that we reference all the time is from The Matrix.
Wait, is it my favorite one?
I'll give you. How about I give you the flipper?
And you give me my phone call.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't even the one I was thinking of. The Matrix has maybe my favorite just TV redub. I remember seeing this on TBS. Very funny. The line when he has the bug pulled out of him, and the actual line is, "Jesus Christ, that thing's real."
Yeah.
And they just dubbed it into, "Jeepers Creepers, that thing's real."
Yeah, it's like extra
you-
disturbing.
And it's not even profanity. It's saying Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
runs into the weird religious thing again. And actually,
Sacrilegious.
the gun thing is interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember, so obviously the Motion Picture Association of America, you know,
Yeah.
which like gives movies ratings, is weird, and has really weird rules for how things get rated. But they also, you know, they have to approve all the trailers as well.
Yeah.
You know, like the Green Band, this trailer's been approved for all audiences by the Motion Picture Association of America, and there's nowhere that you can actually like look up the exact rules about this. But I just remember reading over the years, like I
Right.
hear things about the way they evolved, and for a long time, they couldn't have a shot of someone pointing a gun toward the audience.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Yeah,
Cinema
but
was
the
said
thing is,
we have to do
look,
that.
scream in the
it
audience.
it's fine now. It is like if you look at trailers now, that has gone away entirely. But,
Yeah.
but I think it was like in 2008. You couldn't do it back then.
People were really
Yeah.
scared of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't run that now with cable companies either still. The gun pointed, breaking the fourth wall. It's like the train pulling into the station,
Isn't that like the-
in 1918 or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was
Not
about to say. Is
even
like, are
1908.
people still like
Yeah.
in the Lumiere era? Like, oh my god,
It's coming!
They're sitting at home. They just dive onto the
Yeah.
floor.
Smashing all of their glasses or whatever they've set on the
Screaming.
table. Their dinner of macaroni and
I
cheese
mean,
kicks
I-
onto the carpet.
I know this is like a trite observation, but I would love to just have my memory erased and just get to go see the train entering the station movie and
yeah.
just being horrified.
To have that visceral reaction to
how
something that we
cool
take
to-
for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even VR is like the closest we're gonna get. It's probably not. I'm
It's
still,
still
too
underwhelming.
jaded by technology.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you could travel back in time, go back and just watch train arriving at a station.
Right, but you have to be of that era.
Or
in your
watch
brain.
like those old looped clips, like that one that was like the first
The
ever
Edison
filmed
one?
kiss, where the guy with the big bristly mustache like
Oh, yeah.
wrinkles it and then brings a lady in for a big old smooch, and you're like, this is the most sexual thing I've ever seen.
just
you're
people hard
rock
as shit watching like the spinning thing.
You're sweating profusely.
Actually,
putting nickel buffalo quarters into it, whatever the fuck they use.
now what I want to do is travel back in time to that time, but show those people John Wick Chapter 2.
oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, just
Show
a
Thomas
movie.
Edison.
They have a meltdown in the theater. Just, they literally all have like aneurysms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Buster Keaton is in the audience, and he sees the clip of Sherlock Jr. that plays in the beginning
Yes!
of John Wick Chapter 2, and that's what inspires him.
Yeah,
to
his
become a
head just
stuntman.
implodes.
Yeah.
More
and
like Buster Skeeton.
which also really great way to pivot into the
Cool.
opening scene of the movie. But wait,
Yeah. Nice dude. Buster Skeeton.
Brothers.
Brothers Torpey.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you first saw this movie.
You go first, Matt.
No.
Okay, I'll go. So, honestly, Siddhant, it was the same as you. It was
In India.
in India. I was in India at the time. I was
You went
10.
there just to see this movie. It was
Yeah.
weird.
Doing the,
You know what's funny though, because I sort of saw. I don't think I even saw The Matrix when it came out, but the trailer obviously was a big thing. Honestly, though, I kind of muddled up. It sounds stupid now, knowing what these three movies were, but I used to think that The Matrix, The Faculty, and The Relic were all the same movie.
Wait,
That's
wait,
so
slow down.
stupid of you.
The
It's-
Relic?
Yeah, The Relic. You remember that movie?
No.
So The Relic is a movie about a giant beastie that lives in the Museum of Natural History, and it eats everyone.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Googling this?
They all came out like around the same time, and I was just like, "What are all these movies like?" How do you keep it straight? The Relic, The Faculty, it's all the same
Wait,
word.
It's like a bat. Yeah.
This
it's all
The
the.
Matrix.
Wait, The Relic is a Peter Hyams movie? This sounds awesome.
I bet it wasn't.
It's probably bad. I mean, I didn't.
I
watch
loved
it.
everything that had a monster in it. So I just watch any movie with a creature.
Yeah. But like, to be honest, that's where I have to stay with that story, because I really actually don't have a clear memory of sitting down and watching a Keanu Reeves movie.
Wait, no, Jake, we're not talking about your Keanu history.
We're talking about the John Wick
talking about
chapter
John Wick
2.
Chapter
when
2.
you-
Oh,
when you saw
first
it.
time John Wick Chapter 2. Oh, I saw John Wick Chapter 2 like
First,
two
I
years
was
ago.
born.
Yeah, I was born. 2 years ago.
Well, did you see it in theaters?
No, I didn't see 1 or 2 in theaters. I watched them all later.
Patrick, are you trying to make the podcast actively less interesting?
Yeah. I was talking about when I was a child.
I thought there might be. You had a good story.
No, I don't have a good story.
Yeah, you did have a good
You
story.
did have-
we
you had a
don't.
better story.
I just saw the movie when it
I
came
watched
out.
it on Amazon.
I think I was in a theater. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I have a stupid story about when I saw
Shoot.
it.
Sure.
So I saw it alone in a movie theater.
Yeah, of course,
But,
like you usually do.
yeah, exactly.
Freaking loser.
I wish I had friends.
So rude.
I wish you
Coming for you.
My co-hosts are not my friends.
Coming for you,
I wish I had real friends. No, but I saw this movie during this weird week when I had this blockage of earwax in one ear. And I could not hear out of that ear for like a week. And it was like, but I was so excited about them. And literally, I finally had to resort to buying that thing that you get at a pharmacy, these little like drops. Have you ever had to deal with this?
You had
No.
a Shrek candle brewing?
Yes. A full-on Shrek candle was poking out of my ear, but like to get over this, because I could not hear out of my left ear, I would have to. I bought these little drops, and I would have to lay on my side and drip them into my ear, and I could hear it dissolving the earwax.
Ew.
It's actually kind of fun because you can hear it bubbling and fizzing.
That
Ooh,
does
it's like
sound
putting
kinda
hydrogen
cool.
peroxide on a cut.
Yeah, it's like that, but it doesn't hurt. And anyway, when I saw John Wick Chapter 2, I couldn't hear out of one ear.
I thought you were about to say that like you went into the movie and just like you were like sitting there and someone else was sitting next to you and you're like, I'm sorry, I have to do my drops, and you just like laid your head on their lap and dropped it in, and then your ear just spewed wax into their face.
It's like putting a Mento in a bottle of Coca-Cola.
I have to do my drops for my wax.
Could I tell my John Wick 1 story real quick?
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I wasn't here last time.
No, please.
Please tell your John Wick 1 story.
Sure. So when the trailer first came out, I thought it was an interesting premise, but I wasn't really interested in the movie.
None of us were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then as the weeks went by, I saw critics going gaga for it, and I thought, okay, the reaction here seems something similar to the Fast and Furious movies, where critics are going crazy for this stupid-looking action movie, and no one else is talking about it. So I actually caught, I think, what might have been the last screening in New York.
Like a press screening?
No, like a regular like theatrical screening. I decided to
Okay.
finally go like 6 or 8 weeks in with my friend Claire, who
Friend of the podcast. I have met her a few times.
yeah, and she, as you know, yells during movies, and I'm also a movie yeller, and we went nuts during the movie.
Of course.
And
What was your scene? Like the biggest reaction you got?
probably where he keeps jabbing the knife into that guy's chest.
Yes, sir.
That's a good one. I
love-
approve.
in the first fight scene in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then after that, like, wouldn't stop talking about the movie for months. And then it finally came out on Blu-ray, which is when I decided, okay, I have to show this movie to everyone. And this was early 2015. So I would call people over. We would watch John Wick. That was just a thing that we would do. I did that with 2 separate sets of friends in one day. But this is also the time.
Wait, did you maybe be like first group, get out of here. I can't have the second group seeing you and knowing that you exist.
For all I know, a couple of them might have like overlapped. Some people may have stayed for the second screening. But there was one night where a bunch of us were gathered at my place, and I realized like my friends hadn't seen John Wick. So I went to a Best Buy like 10 blocks away, bought John Wick on Blu-ray, and came back and we watched it.
And everyone thanked you, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so at the time, in 2015, there was a particular trailer that would play before every movie. On every Blu-ray I bought at the time, it played before. I'll tell you, I'll get to it.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
And so whenever we'd watch John Wick, we'd make sure to watch the Blu-ray trailers as well, just to catch this one specific trailer. And then I started doing it for every movie that I would watch with my friends, regardless of whether or not it was on the Blu-ray. We would just put on this particular trailer. So before we get to talking about John Wick 2, as is tradition, I'm going to put on this trailer for you guys, which you've probably seen, but we have to watch it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Phil, quick.
Wait, should I pull it up on my computer right here?
I've got it right here. We can just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
can we
all loaded
group
up.
around?
He's a professional.
Where should I stand? Okay.
Okay, there's the green band.
Ooh, I got the best angle for this.
Should we put it up to a mic?
3 months ago, a Spanish museum sent a Goya painting to be cleaned.
Okay.
Painting has disappeared. This very bad man who wanted to fund violent worldwide revolution. This life for its day. And you would like me to find it. Precisely. What's in it for me?
It's Mortdecai! It's Mortdecai! Oh, don't believe me, just watch!
This played before I saw John Wick in theaters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Respected by all who know me.
He's getting beaten up by Amber Heard.
My favorite bit is coming up.
My
wife.
Yo, Mortdecai came.
Wait, do you guys remember the posters for this movie where it was
Yeah.
just all the cast members with mustaches?
Yeah.
So this was a reboot of something?
No.
Right.
Mortdecai is amazing because it was sold
Mortdecai-
as if everyone knew who Mortdecai was, and he was this beloved character who'd been around for
You know.
decades.
People love Mortdecai.
But he wasn't. Oh my god.
We grab the painting when no one's looking.
ingenious.
Wow, what a good laugh line.
I forgot how overqualified this cast was.
You know what's funny? When I saw Mortdecai, the trailer, for the first time, I thought it was sort of trying to do like a raunchy like Jacques Tati movie. I thought he was supposed to be like,
I thought we were doing a like
Monsieur
Inspector
Hulot.
I thought we were
Fumbling
doing a
around.
Clouseau type thing. Like we were trying to like reboot. Not a new character, but like
Oh my god.
his sword.
Oh my god.
Dude, I heard there were multiple times where they just do the same gag where somebody chokes on the side of his mustache.
Oh, I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, neither have I. What are you crazy, Jake?
All these people are in this movie. Well, also, do you guys know who directed this movie?
Don't tell me.
No.
Yeah, Gasp. No,
I can be fun. Sometimes I do Mortdecai.
it's just a big
God.
CGI dick at the end.
Yeah.
Coming in a giant CGI vagina, and you're like,
What? And it's Mortdecai.
it's Mordecai's dick.
And there's a mustache
It's
on
a little
it.
mustache on it, like it's a Lyft driver. It's not unusual to bust in anyone.
He takes DMT and kills himself at the end.
That would be awesome.
I promise I will.
please.
I will add the audio of the Mordecai trailer into the final edited version of this podcast.
And now on to John Slick, Slapter 2.
Oh no!
Sorry,
Can't
I had to-
transport a year.
Don't slow there, man.
It was a callback to a year ago.
A year ago.
Lucky number 11, guys.
Wow. I had completely forgotten that trailer played before I saw John Wick in theaters until you put it on right now. And I remember now, one of the friends I saw it with, like early on in the trailer, leaned over to me and said, "Is this a Wes Anderson movie?" And I said, "What the fuck is wrong with you? How little do you think of Wes Anderson?"
Why do I remember that it was that. Don't believe it, just watch it.
Uptown Funk?
Uptown Funk wasn't that in the trailer in one
Maybe
of
there
them?
was another trailer. I've only seen this one a million
Also,
times.
Uptown Funk was everywhere.
Right.
So it was probably in like
Uptown
maybe
Monk, Chipmunk
Yes.
movie. I mean,
Uptown Monk gonna give it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why isn't our podcast just about the Chipmunk movies?
Oh,
That's the
because
question.
that'd be a short podcast.
What I was going to say was,
Too short.
Mordecai is directed by
Mortdecai.
Mortdecai is directed by David Koepp, writer of Jurassic Park.
Hey, buddy.
Also,
Who hurt you?
Why did you make Mordecai,
yeah,
dude?
no one understands Mordecai. Anyway, John Wick, Chapter 2.
Let's
Yes.
get into the meat of it.
Let's get into it. So this movie, it hits the ground running, and I appreciate that. As you've already mentioned, it begins with just Sherlock Jr., the Buster Keaton film, with one of like the best stunt sequences of that movie, just being projected onto the side of a building in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Just like, look, they're kind of calling their shot. They're like, we're not even gonna like be subtle about our influences. We're just gonna make it the first thing you see. I like that.
Yeah, and what's strange is, as I watched the movie, I was trying to trace like the Buster Keaton influence, and I couldn't really see it.
I know because it's
Oh,
so
yeah,
overt
no.
in Mission Impossible.
Okay.
I know. I mean, like the last 3 Mission Impossible movies have such an overt Buster Keaton influence, and it's much more so than John Wick.
Yeah.
I think it really just comes down to, just like the long tradition of like practical stunt work.
Fair enough.
And because it's a stunt, they're stunt people that made the movie. I mean,
Exactly.
it's like they're trying to showcase the proud tradition of their like sub art within an art form. I don't know, like stuff like that when things are made by people who are like part of some other random specialty team. What do you call them? Like the specialty teams in a film production.
Units?
Yeah. Like when movies then like get spin-offs by like unit leaders or whoever, they tend to you feel like they tend to be pretty much homages to stuff that came before? There's like much more like allusion to things and like they're like fans.
Like
more
when
than
Wally
anything.
Pfister made Transcendence.
Sure.
Sure, man.
That movie was all about cinematography.
Mordecai, but is he Skype now?
Skype Mordecai?
Oh my god, Cyber Mortdecai.
But before Mordecai?
Oh no!
Mortdecai's in everyone's computer. It's not unusual to look at Mortdecai.
Okay, look at what you've begun.
I
So
know
yes,
what you mean,
no,
though.
no, I do know what you mean, and I do
My
think there's
brain doesn't work today.
there's a sense with this movie because this is now Chad Stahelski's second movie as a director,
Right.
And
Yeah.
you can feel him kind of like loosening up and becoming more confident, and
Yeah.
and I think part of that is just him being like, you know what, I'm gonna throw a silent film on the side of a building right at the start because I think it's cool, and I want to acknowledge like the history of where this came from, and
Yeah.
and then we've got this whole opening section where he's just getting his car back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I love it.
And you get another Russian guy.
Another Russian guy played by
Not
another
just-
Swedish actor.
Yes,
too.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Stormare, yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Stormare, yeah.
Okay, I've been saying Stormare all these years, and I feel like an idiot now.
It's okay, man.
Stormara?
More or less. I had to look it up on YouTube. I'm not very good with Swedish pronunciation.
Okay, they're tricky. But he also has a really fascinating, like, long-term history with Keanu. Like, they're friends.
Okay.
Do you know about this?
I did not.
So they're in Constantine together. I believe that was the first time they worked together. And then there's this. And then Peter Stormare has this this comedy TV show called Swedish Dicks that he stars in. I think might have co-created. Keanu is a recurring guest star on that show. They're friends, and they just like working together. And I think that's probably how he ended up in this movie. Keanu's probably just like, hey, Peter, we got this little role. You're just going to be the brother of Michael Nyqvist from the previous film. You know, we're going to give you some fun dialogue,
Yeah.
and you literally sit in a chair the whole time.
You're Russian again.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love Peter Stormare so
Yeah.
much.
Me too. He's always great.
But he for so long, just like I mean, I love him in Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah.
I love him in Michael Bay movies. He is. I mean, when you need someone to just be like terrifying and unhinged and also vaguely European.
Yeah. Also, talk about ageless people. I mean, that dude hasn't aged from age 60 for like also like 30 years. Similar to how
that's true.
Keanu
He's
seems to
stuck
be
in a
permanently
bad part of it,
35.
but it's still
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Right.
he's ageless in his
Getting
own
to
way.
be good for him.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because when you see him in Fargo, you're like, that man's like 40 something, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like,
It's the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
about the same.
Nothing's changed.
But yeah, but I think it's interesting that the first movie takes a long time to get to the action. It really takes, like, I think it's about half an hour in that the first action scene comes.
Right.
In this movie, they begin with a big burst of action, and then it kind of slows down for a bit.
Because it's him like tying up the loose ends of the previous film. But
Right.
now.
And also, we know who John Wick is. The first one is like, here's this guy, you kind of care about him, and then you learn like, oh, it turns out he's like the ultimate badass and can do everything.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's like, you know, there's kind of like he kind of gives the Cliff Notes version of the pencil story again. No, the,
Fucking pencil.
I could listen to Russian people say fucking pencil.
And then he did it
Forever.
in the movie.
Well, I mean, we'll get to it. We'll get to the fucking pencil. But, you know, even like his henchman is like, yeah, I know the story.
Yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
The boogeyman.
Yeah, and so one thing I'm curious about, that opening chase where he's chasing the guy on the motorcycle, is that shot in New York?
That's
Oh,
a
man, I
good
don't
question.
Because
know.
they use New York a lot for this. I'm just trying to figure out where did they shoot that?
That is a really good question. I was assuming it was in New York, but yeah. Like which street you're asking? Like what neighborhood in particular they might have shot?
It looks
I don't
like
know.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do they close off the streets to do that sort of thing in Manhattan?
You can do that shit for like 30 minutes. You
I
get
mean,
a run of street.
You
Seems hard to
can,
do,
like
though,
it's expensive.
like in John Wick 3,
Yeah.
which full disclosure, I have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just say that here. I've seen the movie. We'll talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah.
But they were able to like close down the lower level of the Verrazano Bridge to stage the motorcycle sword fight sequence.
Oh, that's on the Verrazano?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so that they could do that, but also like you don't see a lot of car chases in movies in Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's all you'll if they're New York set car chases, they'll more likely be in like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Because just, you know, closing down like all those streets and all those blocks, it's tough.
Logistically catastrophic.
Yeah, and so I was just curious looking at, like, a lot of times when movies have action scenes set in New York, they'll be shot elsewhere. And I was just curious about this one.
One time I when I was in college, I saw them filming I Am Legend.
Oh, when they made it look all like post-apocalyptic and overgrown.
Yeah, and it was just it was really funny because they were in Columbus Circle, and they had just blocked off Columbus Circle and like some stretch of roads, and so it was just giant crowd of people. And then all like sort of cordoned off, and then there's just Will Smith just standing in the middle of this huge expanse of space.
That's amazing.
I was like, "This is Will Smith."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like a big fucking hassle. All the like poor PAs that work on that stuff are like,
Oh,
please,
yeah.
please don't try and run up to Will Smith.
Oh, that's one of the worst is being like a PA that's just standing like 3 blocks out from where they're shooting, and you just have to tell people to not round a corner.
Yeah.
And nobody gives a shit.
Right,
Everybody's
yeah.
like, my coffee
going-
shop is right fucking there. I need coffee. I need caffeine. And you're like, but they said, you give me a walkie-talkie, and they just don't care. They like slap your walkie-talkie out of your hand.
Have you done this? Have you been a PA?
I did it once, yeah. And it
And they
was
said
for
never again.
Oh, people just mistreated you. So like, like it just happened. Every single person that walked past you did not respect the fact that there was a movie going on, and it didn't matter who was there. They would ask first, like, "Oh, who is it?" And then I would be like, "Oh, Michael Douglas is in it." And they'd be like, "Fuck that guy! I need coffee."
Yeah, he said the greed is good, and I disagree.
Yeah. Funny enough, this movie that I was a peon was Wall Street 2. Money Never Sleeps.
Never
Wait.
sleeps.
Yeah.
Shia
Wait,
LaBeouf.
wait.
Yeah, and it did have
You were
Shia
a
LaBeouf.
PA on Wall Street too? Money Never Sleeps?
Momentarily, because they shot at Fordham.
I didn't know this.
I never watched the movie.
I have
don't
seen
know
Wall
the-
Street 2.
Yeah.
Money Never Sleeps.
I saw it in
You're not
theaters.
missing out.
Okay, good.
I can't remember like any. Wait, Frank Langella dies by being, I think,
Yeah.
either stepping in front of a subway train or
Yeah,
does
he
he get
causes
pushed?
some delays. Yeah, no, he
Yeah.
jumps.
Yeah, yeah. I remember.
Sad Langella.
But yeah, it does seem it just seems incredibly frustrating to close off large chunks of a
Yeah.
densely populated metropolitan
Yeah, they
area.
probably didn't shoot it here.
I don't. Yeah.
But,
Maybe, but-
if anyone involved in the production knows, please tweet
us a
at
ring.
us. We'll, as of recording this, we do not have a new Twitter name for this podcast, but we'll
Yeah.
have it by the time this episode is out, and I'll say it at the end of the episode. Anyway, so what do you guys think of this opening sequence, where he takes on like the taxi king of New York? That's not what he's actually called.
Real quick, they don't have a podcast name, so in the meantime, tweet it at part-time rogue.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, do it.
Yeah, please do it.
Yeah, no objections there.
Anyway,
So we've got a little prologue here, and what do you guys think?
The dude has to get his car back, you know? It's funny, I actually forgot, like, you finish watching the first John Wick, and you're just like, well, he's done. He did everything that
Yeah,
he set
and
out
he
to
got
do.
a dog.
So then the first movie, or the second movie starts up again, and you're like, oh, right, he had to get a car. I forgot about that. I honestly thought he, like, destroyed it in the first one. But then I was just like, oh, a million other cars got, you know, demolished in different ways. Never mind.
John
He didn't
Leguizamo
get his-
gave him like a temporary car,
Right,
Which is
and
what
that's
he
what
has
confused
at
me.
the start of this one.
Yeah.
Well, like
It was cool, though.
like you had mentioned before, like yeah, the pacing where the necessity of having to like establish John Wick in the first one so that it's slow, you don't know who he is, you have to care for him, and also they have to like keep it a big secret, and so there's like this slow pacing and then the big reveal and the surprise. I don't know, this burst of this in the second one, now that everything, and I'm assuming that you from the vague things you said about the third one, that it's just even less of like a lull. Like now he's just, people are after him. So
I mean, like this one is so immediate.
Yeah.
It like literally just, you know, the camera tilts down from the wall where Buster Keaton is being projected, and then
Right.
it's just car chase. Like honestly, even the third one gets to the story faster, but it does not get to the action as fast as this one, because the action is like there in the first shot.
I love car chases, and like, so that part might be one of my top parts of the movie, is just the beginning. And also, it's just one of Keanu Reeves' many talents is to be able to, I guess, drive really well. It's another thing that he like put a lot of time
He's
into.
clearly doing a lot of the driving.
He's doing a lot of the driving,
Also-
that thing. He's getting hit by so many cars. The physicality of the thing is really intense.
That's the
liked
thing
it.
I love about this movie. He just, while like standing, just gets hit.
He keeps getting hit.
By multiple cars, and it looks painful every time.
But he does an awesome thing where like you like flip your e-brake and you like swing your car around so you can like whack somebody with
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
I want to do that shit so bad.
It's like the car equivalent of a bitch slap. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so great.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like in this sequence, because it kind of begins to where first he's chasing down a guy on a motorcycle
Yeah.
to like find out where this location is.
Right.
And again, they're also doing the world building where it's like, oh, like all these taxis in New York are actually used for like, transportation of like illicit goods and
Right.
Yeah.
more gold coins and stuff like
The
that.
world's more
Balloons.
assassin than citizen.
Yeah.
It feels like.
And this really gets into one of the things that I love about the John Wick movies, which is just this really elaborate world mostly within New York City.
Yeah.
And I think it works so specifically with New York because as we're recording this on the island of Manhattan right now.
That's correct.
But New York City, because
Sorry, I'm so
you.
sorry.
because so much of New York is confined to an island, it's really dense. It's
Yeah.
like one
Right.
of, in terms of like the U.S., it's like the densest city because it's
Yeah.
all just like packed in there. And so the idea of like there also just being this whole like elaborate underworld,
Right.
just within there, where all of a sudden just like, oh, this homeless person is actually part of this whole network of like, homeless people that also have like a king and like,
Yeah, always great.
That whole
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this random door, if you knock the right way, oh, there's going to be like a special person behind that. It's like, and like at least like having lived in New York, like that seems so plausible. Like, yeah, there's so many little like weird doorways and
Nooks and crannies
nooks
and alleyways.
Yeah,
and-
that the idea of being like, oh, there's this whole world here.
More than plausible, just fun.
Right.
It
Yeah.
just kind of injects a little bit of magic into this. It's like Men
Yeah.
in Black did that for me a bit. Like,
I
like,
mean,
what if everyone's an alien? That's kind of
we
fun
say
to
that
think about.
and it'll be out by now, but I literally just finished a video about Men in Black where I go on a long thing about how Men in Black is one of like the great New York movies in terms of like capturing so many experiences of living here. And the thing in Men in Black that I think that it really nails is just how there's so many just weirdos and bizarre shit happening all over the place
Right.
constantly that we just tune it all out and ignore it because we don't want to engage. And
Yeah.
Men in Black just takes that further and it's like, oh yeah, there's just aliens all over the place, but no one gives a shit in New York, so no one just notices any of it.
Right.
Yeah, which is really funny.
Yeah.
It
but-
does add more fun though with all of the different passageways and doorways of the John Wick world because, instead of imagining you see that like rusted out door at the end of a subway platform, and instead of the truth, which is that behind that door there is a large pile of human feces.
Right, and our infrastructure is just
You can pretend
crumbling.
that there's a fun Bowery assassin, and he's behind the door
Think
instead.
about that.
Right. And also things like, oh, that woman busking in the subway. Oh, she's
Yeah.
actually an assassin.
Yeah.
All of this. But then you
has
get it
a
in the
pistol.
first scene. It's like, oh, the taxi's also
Yeah.
part of this whole thing.
Yeah,
But
that is
but
cool.
then once he shows up there, then you get this intercutting between him like quietly taking out goons. And then Peter Stormare is like hearing about like, oh, John Wick is here. Oh, he wants his car. And they're holding on to it. And then you get this whole just like car action scene, which has, and I watched a special feature on the Blu-ray about how they did one of my favorite stunts in this movie because I was like, did they actually do this for real? Because it looks so dangerous, and they did do it for real.
Which one was this?
What at?
You know the part where the camera's moving backwards and the car is driving at the camera, and Keanu opens his door, and then the guy in the motorcycle hits the door and it just like catapults the motorcycle over it, and he
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
does a flip and he falls off of it. Yeah, they just did that. They did 2 takes and they did it for real. And I'm
Fuck
like,
yeah,
I,
that's
like
One more in you, John. Yeah.
I can't believe. Like,
But that stunt guy's doing the movie. They're
I
like,
know.
we're gonna do this.
I know, and
Verisimilitude.
Yeah.
and right in the opening scene you get stuff like that, and
Hello, my name's Vera.
yeah. Any thoughts?
I'm sorry, I was trying to process what he said. Thoughts. First, for a second, I thought it picked up right after where the last movie left off, like within the same evening or something.
Do
But
we
he
know how
seems-
much time has passed?
No, but he seems to be a little more put together. He's not bleeding. He's not recovering from any injuries. It could be a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is still closing the loop on the first film. And what I find interesting about that is, even though at the end of the first one, hey, he's got a new dog, he's not over anything that's happened. This is still him cleaning up not just the mess that was made by the Russian mob, but the mess that is his life, what it's now become again.
Yeah.
And so it's still part of the same story in that he has to get his car back. He still has to deal with the direct and indirect fallout of his loss. And so the first thing you see after he calls a truce with the Russian gangster is you then start to see more flashbacks again, just to remind you okay, this guy's still very much in that emotional state where we left him in the last movie. So as much as this is a sequel, it's still continuing the same story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never bought the relationship personally between. I mean, I did buy that. Maybe he became kind of potentially obsessed with this woman who was his wife, and they had a pretty decent. But he was also running away, obviously, from his instincts, and now he kind of fetishistically watches a video of her on the beach to get angry enough, it seems to go out and kill more people. And because
That
she
is
has
kinda true, yeah.
little because there's so little input from her, and probably by necessity just to not make it an overly long movie about the stuff that the stunt guys probably don't care about doing, which is showing him talk to his
Though
wife.
his wife's not putting him in an armbar.
She's such a in absentia. Yeah, she's just this sort of phantasm that's just sort of haunting the background, and it seems like he's kind of using her as fuel, and it is a little bit weird and psychotic.
The first one works as well as it does because of the dog, not because of the wife.
Of
so
course.
and you don't
Well,
have that.
yeah,
Because
unfortunately,
again,
yeah.
he's not getting revenge for his wife dying.
Right.
It's revenge for his dog dying. I will say, I've been thinking, especially since seeing the third one, and I won't spoil anything here, I promise, but I've just been thinking about John Wick as a character and his journey.
I said phantasm. Phantom. I don't know why I said it all weird.
Fantastic.
I wasn't gonna be able to be calm until I addressed that. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, this is not about a ball with blades on it.
Yeah, Matt.
Oh God.
But honestly, John Wick 4, that could very well show up.
Yeah.
But
Ball blade.
But the first movie is such a simple, pure revenge movie. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's these people wronged him. He gets revenge.
Yeah.
It's very simple. And it's very cathartic because we're with him. We get it. They take the time to establish him. His goal is so simple, and then the question is to continue this. How do you continue a revenge story once the person has gotten revenge?
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's unlikely that you're going to have just a sort of a goal and personal quest as simple and direct as that one. And I was thinking about this thing with him and his wife, because you see so little of her. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that I like the John Wick Chapter 2 a lot. This is the one thing I'm a little bit mixed on, and I think they do a better job in the third one. But just in terms of what is John's story in this, his personal story, because he essentially the whole thing with his character is he got out of this world and got this taste of a different life, and now he just, especially with his wife gone, he wants some semblance of it, just like some piece of normality and
Right.
peace in his life, and I think,
Does he?
well, he thinks he does,
Okay. I'll take that.
but also the question is, what even is that now?
Right.
Because he doesn't have a wife, he has a new dog, but
Yeah. It's not the
Daisy
same
Chapter
though.
2.
Yeah.
yeah, but just one dog can't, it can't provide what a
Hey.
marriage could.
He's got a nice house on Long Island or whatever.
I think it's
It's in
Jersey.
New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean what is John Wick? What does John Wick want? And the question is, the second question, or the next layer to that question is, does John Wick know what he wants, other than to just not
Be set off.
not have to do this anymore? Don't set him off, Jake.
Yeah.
But
One rule, dude. Don't set him off.
Okay.
yeah, because
Okay.
Don't light his.
because that kind of is it. It's like he specifically doesn't. While he might be addicted to just killing, I think what he specifically doesn't like is killing for other people.
Yeah, he's just like doing it for his own pleasure.
Yeah, for personal pleasure.
I mean, it's what he's
I get
best at.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
Nobody likes to be told what to
maybe
do.
he liked having a righteous excuse.
Yeah.
right. Well, because like if you look at his journey in this movie, he begrudgingly accepts to like do this one last job because in the hope that this will be the end of all of it.
Wait, why? But that's my not quibble, but just like the slightly weird, just sort of like Deus Ex that just comes in and like keeps the movie going. If I use that
Well,
word right, like
Do you mean just like Santino showing up and being
he
like,
just shows like this Italian guy shows up and he's like, he's like, go on, you come do that, and he's just like, I
Yeah.
thought like we did wrap this up, but then this can also just happen. Like a
Well,
guy can come, and why is suddenly
That's something that I was thinking about, and it's like a larger thing that happens with movies when you're making a first one, not knowing if it's going to spawn a franchise or not. So every first movie, even if you have the intentions of thinking like we have other scripts, other ideas to develop this, if it does well, but you can never guarantee a first movie is going to do well. Star Wars was the same way. The Matrix was the same way. And so what happens is you have a first movie that feels always, even when you try with the best intentions to tie it into then a larger franchise once it's proven to be successful, to always feel a little bit more standalone. You know what I mean? Than
But
like
that's
the next
fine.
movies that follow it. So I think they wrapped up John Wick 1 because they were like, we got to see how it does. It might not necessarily make a lot of money, and then that has to be the end of it. Then they make a ton of money, and then so it's like, well, we did wrap up the first movie, so now you have to make up like this weird thing that does feel a tiny bit forced, or
Well,
like a tiny bit, you know.
mean-
and now here's another thing we just made up that brings them back in.
So here's the thing,
Yeah.
and I'm quoting some podcast I listened
Okay.
to recently, and I can't remember what one it was.
my whole life is just plagiarizing people I don't remember.
There you go. So listeners, tell me who I'm quoting right here.
Yeah.
But there's the sort of like the choice to make when it comes to sequels, because the first ones are usually pretty even like the original Star Wars is a
Right.
pretty self-contained movie. They blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the second one, the choice is either do you basically do the same thing again, or do you make it a mythology?
Okay.
And for instance, if you look at the Mission Impossible movies,
yeah.
those are pretty much, each one is like a variation on the same sort of thing. They're not trying to like let's turn it into a heavily serialized thing. Each one is kind of doing just a different version of like what the first one did, and what you expect from these movies. And then like James Bond movies,
Right.
and then you look at Star Wars, The Matrix, and John Wick, and with those second installments, it's like, oh, this is a mythology. We are going to deepen the world. We are going to make this more serialized.
Yeah.
We are going to have this, build this into a larger ongoing
More
story.
lore.
Yeah. And I bet
More,
not
a lot more
Lore, please.
And I bet like a not small part of that is due to the fact that the three franchises that then decided to turn themselves into a mythology had some consistent player, like a director or what would you call George Lucas? Obviously, he didn't direct those, but he was like
freaking genius.
I mean, he didn't.
and the overseer of his
Right,
own
well,
trilogy.
Well, he produced and
Yeah.
the
co-wrote
steward.
them all.
Exactly.
So I mean, he's
So
still
having-
the primary author of the Star Wars.
Yeah, and
movies.
having a consistent person working on all three, as opposed to a Mission Impossible movie where Brian De Palma makes the first Mission Impossible movie and then he goes on his merry way. And then suddenly you're like, okay, we need to give this to a new person. That new person is much more inclined to do their own thing as opposed to be like, let's build a mythology on this thing that I didn't even make up.
Right, exactly.
John Woo's like, I just have like a couple things, like motorcycle tricks I want to do.
Right.
So let's
But you
figure out
could-
this movie.
You could totally see
Yeah,
this
yeah.
also. And again, because the first John Wick, before you actually see the movie, we talked about this last
Right.
time, but if you just look at it, from the marketing, it looks like a relatively generic action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves gets wants revenge and kills a bunch of guys, and then you watch the movie and you realize that, oh, they've actually built up this very elaborate world there.
Would you say like John Wick is probably the spark for we had the reconnaissance? Just in terms of like relevance in the culture again, like would you say that would be the spark that like
For Keanu?
for Keanu essentially?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
because it was a relatively small movie. People were not expecting it. And again, as we've talked about, it reconfigured like the way action has been in movies like over the past 5 years or so. But obviously because they sorry, let me back up. Because the original one could have been very generic. You
Right.
could also see them taking a sequel and being like, well, I don't know. Someone kills his brother, and then he has to go on revenge again, and we do
Yeah.
the same thing again. And
his
and-
brother you didn't know about that we just made up.
right? Because this one, in so many ways,
Ernie Wick.
No,
John, you were always the coolest.
guys, it's Mortdecai Wick, obviously.
Mortdecai Wick. My name is Mortdecai Wick. Yes, please.
But this one, honestly, it gets so much more ambitious than the first one, and really decides to expand the scope of the whole thing.
Yeah, it does.
You can feel the directors getting excited.
yeah.
They're like, and it's like a freaking hotel.
And he gets a balloon.
Yeah, Italians.
Yeah.
Though I think the key difference between the two is in the first one, the action was all a product of John Wick going out on this revenge mission. In this, it's him reacting to action that's happening to him. So, and also on top of that, they do give him a sense of reluctance because after the opening scene, he calls a truce and he wants back out of this.
Yeah.
So unlike the first one where he is re-entering a world, now this is him exiting the world and that world kind of being like, no, you opened the door to this and we can now pull you back into it. So it's a fundamentally different movie. But it ends up a little weird in that sense because the first one you were on his side in terms of wanting the action to happen. Over here, it ends up getting a bit muddled just because the action is filmed, of course, in a way where you want it to take place, but the character is reluctant, which does give him an interesting emotional struggle. But then the action kind of gets a bit strange at times as well. Like who is being killed? When, for instance, if you don't mind my skipping forward,
Go for it.
after he kills Gianna, he comes out and it's a bunch of people who are trying to either stop him because it's their job or because they had an actual relationship with her. And it's these people being killed, headshot. So it's not someone who has personally wronged him, wronged Keanu, wronged John Wick, rather,
Right.
that he's getting revenge on. It's just people with a similar purpose as he had in the first film.
Who are doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
although-
just murdering out of
But
self-defense.
he's a
in
tier
way.
1 operator, and he killed goons that technically were also doing their jobs in the first one. You know, like they
Right,
they
yeah.
just work for the wrong guy.
Of course, but the way it's framed ends up being fundamentally different as well.
Well, I think they also
Yeah,
shift
I
away
agree.
from that pretty quickly.
They do.
Because then all of a sudden Santino
Yeah.
sets all of his people on him.
There is an immediate transition very shortly after that. I'm glad there was because upon rewatch, I was getting a little unsettled by this bit of the action isn't as fun because it isn't a revenge mission.
Right.
But then you're right. As soon as Santino comes in and sends his people after John Wick, it does become that again.
And then suddenly, and then plus when he gets back to New York and the open contract is put on him, and really I think what you're talking about is this very brief part of the movie
Yeah.
because from there on out, all of his killing is completely justified because it's basically it goes from self-defense to then revenge again.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna hunt down Santino, and
Yeah. I know what you're saying. The first movie is all one big, massive, rage.
It's so
fueled
pure.
revenge plot. And for any subsequent movie to work after that, after he's satisfied the initial, criteria for getting his proper revenge, he needs to be the underdog. And when he's not the underdog, like in the scenes where he's just fulfilling his whatever, contract negotiation that he had with the other guy, Santino, you're right. I didn't think about that, but he feels like a little bit more evil.
Because
and kind
also,
of-
like,
You're watching the disturbing work of just an assassin.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
doing his gig. It's like him clocking in. He's like, "Fuck." All right.
let's murder
and then
everybody.
when you meet Gianna,
Yeah.
they know each other and like each other. It's
Yeah.
like a bummer because he shows up and they respect each other. It's like they should have just been able to reconnect as friends, and instead he shows up and he's pissed because he has to kill someone that he likes, and she's pissed because she's gonna die.
Well, the other thing that's sorry,
Yeah.
My one point was just the other thing, that theme is like they say in the movie, like, rules are rules. Like, that's why he takes the contract.
It's all about rules.
So it's all about rules, and in the first one, like, it's because all these young shitty people are like breaking the rules that there are problems. And now in this one, it's like you see where the rules can also just be this prison where everyone's just killing each other for each other because of like blood contracts and like sealed wax, like
And
just
huge
like
gold doubloons
from
and
big
stuff,
weird like
yeah.
Baroque medieval sounding like assassins guilds like sending down this shit, and you're like, this seems like it does suck a lot. Like,
yeah, and that's also one thing I love about it. Like, while I'll admit the initial kind of like story setup for like the main narrative is like a little bit sweaty, with like Santino just kind of shows up now and is like, hey, do this job now, and here's all this whole history we have
Right.
together. I can forgive its sweatiness because I love lore, and I love these rules, and I love them being like, oh, we have markers. Here's how these blood oath things work.
Yeah.
Here's here's how this works, and this is why you have to do, like, and it again, no spoilers, but rules in the third one, but literally, like, rules dictate so much of this, because you're down to the, like, I'm skipping to the very end of the movie now, but he kills Santino on breaking the rule that was laid out in the first movie.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
And that sets up the story of the third movie, something that they literally did, like, I don't know, 40 minutes into the first one. It's like, this entire world is so dictated by rules.
Right.
And I like it because they make the rules very clear. We understand them. And so we also like know how these things go. Like we know what it means to break these rules, and we understand the consequences of all these things. So it's a very elaborate
killers, you know, you'd imagine it would have to be a fairly strict
Everything involves
hierarchical
death.
systems. Otherwise, everyone's just good at killing. So it would be really hard when your entire profession is based around your ability to like murder people well.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like, you know, after Santino blows up his house like a dick. Also, one thing I love,
Santino just whips out a huge ass grenade launcher.
I like that he does it himself also.
Yeah.
But can we talk about the guy,
Yeah,
who
what a good guy.
plays Santino? Because these movies all have great casts.
Is he Italian? Because
He is.
Okay.
He is. That's the thing. Most of these actors I know from various things. This is a guy who, when I saw John Wick 2 for the first time, I was like, I think I know that guy. Nope. I did not know him. His name is Riccardo Scamarcio. He has done primarily Italian films. I'm not familiar with anything else he's done, but he's a great hateable Italian piece of shit.
Oh, he's awesome in this.
Yeah.
He's awesome in this.
Yeah, but I do, you know, I love the way the markers work with like the little spike on it, so you can get the blood for the thumbprint.
Good shit.
It's good. And I like the way that when his house blows up, and then you see the shot of John like laying on like the grass, and they know. The filmmakers know that everyone is thinking, what about the dog?
yeah,
And then so they hold for a moment until the dog enters the shot.
God forbid a single damn dog die.
Can you imagine if in every John Wick movie they killed the dog again at the
That would
beginning?
be so funny.
It would be comical by the third one. The second one, you'd just be like, that's terrible writing.
What's that Takashi Miike movie where someone just grabs a like I don't know, Shih Tzu or something, like some little teeny dog, and just slams it on its collar? It'd be really funny if that happened in the third one. He gets like a little like lap dog, like a cute
and just
King
like
Charles
obliterates
Spaniel,
it?
and some guy just stomps on it for like a full 2
I mean, you got to
minutes.
raise the stakes.
Yeah.
You know, how's he going to get mad again about the same
No, it
thing
has to be
unless
like
they
a
do
drunken
it
master
gorier?
thing, where it's like the only way he can be effective is
Yeah.
if his dog dies. So instead of
Oh,
being,
so in the third one, he ends up killing a dog just to like feel anything. He's like, I need to go back out, and you just see him slowly like crush his pet dog,
Strangle a cocker spaniel that he sees on the street.
That's a
and
great
just
way to
sprint
alienate the
into
entire
New York City.
audience.
Yeah,
and
it's
have-
his spinach. It's his Popeye spinach. He needs to kill a dog.
He's dying at the end of the movie, and then he looks like
It cuts
over
to
the
him
side
opening
and
a-
sees a tiny dog that he just grabs, strangles, and then has a new
But
renewed
just
life.
just opens his
Yeah,
garage
yeah.
and there's all all these dogs in like cages. It's like, all right.
No, instead of watching the footage of his wife on the beach on his phone, he just watches footage of a dog dying, and then he's like, "I'm ready."
Oh, I hate it. Oh, do I? Oh.
I love it though too.
Anyway, so then after
Santino blows his house up.
he does, and then I'll forgive this thing. And then John somehow finds a way, despite living in New Jersey, to enter Manhattan by walking across the Brooklyn Bridge.
That's why I thought he lived in Long Island. I swapped it again.
good-
I was
good.
like, oh, he's going across
No,
Brooklyn
look,
Bridge. Maybe it's Long Island.
They chop it up.
They get goofy with New York
It's chopped
geography,
and screwed.
but
Yeah,
it's
they do.
always for what is coolest.
I agree. But they do get super goofy.
Could I skip forward really quick?
Go for it.
Based
Yeah.
on the geography thing, when he has that whole scene where him and Carmen are trying to shoot each other.
In the Oculus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get on a train at Fulton Street.
Yep.
The whole
Yes,
fight scene
sir.
happens on the train. He gets off again at Fulton Street. But I really enjoyed it because he is just sort of going in circles with this whole violence and revenge thing.
It's like
Yeah, maybe it was an intentional thing.
maybe it's a nod to the train station from the Matrix Revolutions.
It's highly likely.
But like that whole, I mean, I love that section.
Yeah.
Just like where everyone's trying to kill him, and then Common encounters him again, and they.
Oh, him and Common is my favorite part of this entire movie.
It's great.
Just their relationship in every scene.
and Common is a guy who.
today, John.
Yeah.
afraid so.
Right. It's
Yeah.
great. And just like
kiss.
also, I have never had strong feelings about Common as an actor or as a rapper. I have no strong feelings about Common as a person. But I love his eye acting at that point where he's like, his eyes kind of flare up as he's thinking like, I think John might have killed the woman I work for, and I don't like that, and I'm gonna go check.
I think I don't like that if that's what happened.
But anyway, but you have this fight scene where they start at the Lincoln Center fountain.
Yep.
And then
they sprint to
suddenly
Fulton Street.
They're at the Oculus.
Maybe they are fast.
they are.
They could have ran for that long until
but
they finally caught up
With
to each
but
other.
then
Naruto
also-
arms flailing
Yeah, they're just
behind them
Naruto
as they
running.
sprint down 6th Avenue.
Gotta go fast. Yeah.
Deleted scene. But then also they fight on the PATH train. But then they say it's a subway. It's
Yeah.
that they say like next stop Canal Street. No, the PATH train does not go to Canal Street.
And I was totally taken out. Plot hole.
I
Yeah.
was a little bit. I just think about that stuff.
Well, honestly, I was watching it just being like, oh, they did a shootout in the Oculus. Like they basically just like found cool New York spots and were
Yep.
like, yeah,
It's an aesthetic
go
movie
there,
more than
yeah.
anything else.
it is right. It's like, what is the coolest way for John Wick to enter Manhattan? Walking across the Brooklyn Bridge at dawn. Does it make sense? No,
Totally
but
G.
also like, the majority of viewers will not realize that because they won't know the geography of Manhattan. So
Yeah.
who
We're not
cares?
some self-centered Manhattanites that think everything revolves around our city. You can chop it up and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. We're like those puzzles where it's like a bunch of different boxes and you have to keep
Yeah.
pushing them around to try and get the image right.
Exactly.
But we
Yeah.
don't care if you get the image right.
Yeah, I remember in
Don't even get the puzzle.
I remember in college when the original Cloverfield came out,
Yeah.
and I knew like two people who were from New York City, and they're like, "That stupid movie! Cell phones can't work in the subway stations." And I'm like, I
suck.
I didn't know that.
I went to go
didn't
see.
think about it.
I went to
Yeah.
go see the movie Ants. This is funny. With my aunt. And she's an entomologist, so she studies bugs. And so
is
she
true.
made the movie kind of miserable by getting who cares? It doesn't matter that Woody Allen is an ant, and he's like, I don't like being part of a hive. But like, she was just like, most ants are actually female, and so. If J-Lo is only the female ant, it just doesn't make sense. Like, the colony wouldn't work. I'm like, none of this works.
Yeah, there wouldn't just be a Sylvester
She's
Stallone
like,
and a Woody Allen ant.
like, kids are
hanging out
not going to learn about ants. I'm like, they don't have military coups, or maybe they do. I don't know.
together. They don't fight wars with termites.
Yeah, this is a podcast about ants.
This has now we're transitioning into our ants segment.
Can't get
Getting
enough
antsy.
of ants. Actually, sorry, Siddhant. Important question for you, because the name of this podcast is Can't Get Enough of Keanu. Our theme song is clearly a riff on the classic Smash Mouth song Can't Get Enough of You Baby. What's your favorite Smash Mouth song?
So, when I was in New York in October, I went and saw a reading of a musical where every song is All Star by Smash Mouth. A different, like in a different tempo, with different subtext. Like there's a really dark scene where someone commits suicide by shooting himself in the head, and the lyrics are with his finger and his thumb in the shape of an L on his forehead.
Oh damn!
Oh my god!
Oh damn!
Yeah.
For those of
Holy
you,
shit.
listening and not watching the live video feed, Siddhant just put his finger, in the normal shape of an L, but then pointed it sideways like a gun. If you get that.
Damn.
That's amazing.
Not
It's
since
fantastic.
Yeah.
Neil Cicierega have I had a song so stupid, so recontextualized.
That's dark.
That's my answer.
So
what the hell
that
was that?
specific version of All Star.
No, just any version of All Star. In fact, so a thing I do at karaoke, and Andrew Todd and I have done this a couple of times as well.
Are you about to say the thing that Jake and I do at karaoke?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go
Also,
for it. Let's
Jake was
hear
the
it.
first one to do
Okay,
it.
so what I do is I put on Wonderwall, but I sing the lyrics. to All Star.
we do it with Imagine by John
Okay,
Lennon.
Okay,
Yeah.
we do it with Wonderwall.
Wait, that works too?
That works too. It works brilliantly.
Shit, I gotta
wow.
try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just give credit where credit's due, we are borrowing from the great Neil Cicierega.
Yeah, Neil
who-
Cicierega
He is our
has
pole star.
On his album Mouth Sounds, where
Yeah.
it's an album of mashups where every song involves All Star. He has a song called Imagine All Star People.
Yeah.
And that then he slows down and pitches down the vocal track to
Yeah.
All Star, so it's so deep.
Somebody wants. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wonderwall thing actually has an origin outside of karaoke. It happened actually around the same time as John Wick came out. This was around...
Make sure it's relevant.
Yeah, it is.
How does it connect to John Wick?
Wait, which year was John Wick again, the first one?
2014.
Yeah, so around October 2014, this was during New York Comic Con. Some friends and I, after the con, we went to a nearby bar where there was a live band, and they started playing Wonderwall. But for some reason, I thought it was All Star, and so I started singing the lyrics to All Star.
Oh, that's
And then
wonderful.
all my friends started singing the lyrics to All Star, and there was like 12 of us at the table.
Somebody once told
And-
me.
And then I think the band like hated us by the end of it because we
course.
were
Yeah.
singing All Star over their
100%.
rendition of Wonderwall.
Right,
So
these
that's what
goddamn
happened.
millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's irony with them, and they just want to hear a
Exactly.
nice
And
Wonderwall.
it didn't start out ironic, is the thing.
Wow.
That sounds nice and organic, and ours was just theft.
Well, but I will say,
Yeah.
the time that Jake did it, Matt, you weren't there.
No, I was not.
It was so great because everyone's having a really fun time and singing like really like upbeat, like up-tempo songs, and then Jake had queued up
Imagine.
Imagine,
Yeah.
and then it comes on, and immediately the room just like the mood of the room died. And everyone's like, "Who the fuck put on Imagine? Like,
Yeah.
like who would? Why would you do this? Like,
I think somebody literally screamed, "Someone get the remote and skip this!" And I
Yeah.
had held on to the remote, knowing that somebody was gonna say that, and I was like, "No."
And Jake just sits there
Then I eat it.
smiling with the microphone, and then I think I actually
it's a
somewhere
good 180. Yeah,
somewhere
It
on my
works well.
phone I filmed part of this.
Yeah.
Because the swing in the mood of the room, like it was a roller coaster because it
Yeah.
plummeted when
roller
Imagine
coaster.
came
And I
on.
was
And
responsible.
then as soon as
Mm-hmm.
you said somebody once told me, everyone screamed and I was like, this is the most brilliant karaoke move I've ever seen.
Have you guys seen that Bank of America song
Yes.
based off of One by U2?
I mean, you're talking like I've seen it obviously.
Yeah.
You two did this at karaoke at my birthday party.
Yeah.
A couple years ago. Wait, Siddhant, do you know about this?
No.
So you know the song "One" by U2. Matt, you want to explain this?
There was a corporate merger between Bank of America and I believe a car company.
Wait, what the fuck is going on? What? What are we talking about?
Let me set the stage.
Look, John Wick can wait. This is
okay.
important.
Just like John Wick 1, we need to set the stage before the real hilarity can ensue. The problem is I don't remember the song that much anymore, but basically it was this video that went viral for a little bit and like got passed around. Someone filmed at this like private corporate event this merger, and basically like it's like all right, it was a wonderful merger. Like, we're gonna make a lot of money, and like now here's like Andrew and Tim, and they made a little song for us, and like these two over earnest, just like 48-year-old bland white dudes in like khakis and like just like they get up there,
checkered button-down shirts. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah,
Yeah. And,
they sing an entire version of One passionately, and it is about like corporate ethics and like making a bunch of money in like the Bank of America.
Yeah, and how it's like one bank.
One bank.
Yeah.
To higher standards.
Talk to Cheryl. She works in the Northeast.
This sounds like something out of The Office.
Oh, truly.
Yeah.
Yes, as in like I'm shocked. This is not like the big finale where like Michael Scott sings this.
But if you learn the lyrics and then put on One, which is something that people aren't quite as immediately upset with as Imagine, people sometimes are like, yeah, One, and then you do the bank shit.
And it kills the mood because nobody can sing along.
It kills the mood because no one really knows what you're doing. It takes them a long time to figure it out.
That you're just singing about Bank of America.
Yeah, so there you go. So we're just giving you karaoke hacks on this podcast. But sorry, we're going to ask every guest what their favorite Smash Mouth song is. So I just remembered that I want to do that.
Can people see that musical you were talking about?
I'll have to check. It should. I hope it happens at some point. This was just a reading. I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Please do. So moving forward, back to Jan Wick.
Yes.
So then, I mean, we have like 40 minutes left on this podcast,
Okay.
and we have like the whole movie to get through. But honestly, well, I think we've covered we've done a lot of the heavy lifting because then, you know, he goes to the Continental. We meet Winston again. We meet is Lance Reddick just the concierge? Does he have a name?
I don't remember if he has a name or not. And as far as I'm aware, he's just the concierge. I don't think you see him in any other location
great. He's
besides
great
behind
in
the
these
desk.
movies.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need somebody who just seems to have a never-ending supply of composure, it's Lance Reddick.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that dude is unflappable.
Also, but I love that Lance Reddick is given the task of taking care of the dog that does not have a name. People keep asking him like, so does he have a name? And John's just like, no. But I love at the end when he comes
he's
back
such a
and
good
picks the
boy.
dog up, and Lance Reddick is like, he was a good dog.
Yeah.
It's delightful. But then he goes in and, you know, and once again, you know, Ian McShane is just like, no, these are the rules. Like, you can't get out of this. Like, you have to do it. It's all about the rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, here's a thing that I think is interesting. Again, getting back to New York geography. They make up a museum. That's not the Met.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, it's a made-up museum.
I wonder if they weren't allowed to say the Met.
My presumption is that they asked the Met,
Yeah.
and then the Met was like, "We would rather not have our museum be the site of massive bloodshed, and be sort of like the headquarters of this terrible villain."
Right.
Fair enough, you know?
Right. It's like they'll allow Blair Waldorf to eat lunch on the front steps. They probably don't want Keanu to just like eviscerate like 24 people.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want like brains popping out of the tops of people's noggins and
that's-
just splattering all over their, you know,
But they do make up a museum.
their Vermeers.
So then, and basically, like he goes and accepts the job,
Nice.
and then he's off to Rome, and then
What are you, some kind of fancy?
guys, I
Monet.
love the Rome Continental stuff.
Oh, it's
because
great.
it's basically like the Shelbyville
Yeah.
of the John Wick world.
And they just have the most interesting man in the world is essentially the owner of that one.
Franco Nero.
Yeah. He's just got like his like old man like Karl Lagerfeld ponytail, and he's like, "Hello, Jean."
And I love how he
Are you here
has
to kill the Pope?
he has a suit guy, he has a gun guy, he also has a keys to ancient ruins guy.
Hell
Yes.
yeah, dude.
Yes.
You don't know their life.
It's like there's a guy for everything, and
A man for all seasons.
yeah, and again, them constantly just like pulling in the best casting. They got Peter Serafinowicz as the sommelier.
Oh, yeah.
And who just, I mean, he has one of the best voices in the world, and so just hearing him say, "Mr. Wick."
Oh, and the
But-
formality of ordering every weapon as if it's a dinner item, you know? You're like, and what can we have as a premier plateau? And he's just like, well, sir, we have
And
a
for
wide
dessert?
selection of Bowie knives. And then he's like, and for dessert, yeah.
I was thinking about when I was watching it, just like That seems like maybe the best gig is to work in one of those stores, be one of those creepy guys, because they're all kind of creepy.
Yeah.
They're all like touching him. They're like, the suit guy is just like, like, so what are your measurements? And then he does it, and he's like, we'll make you the finest suit. Like, they're all like revel in their ability to like make the best things. But it would be the best job because you get to like kind of like be plugged into this weird underground, above the law network, and then just like work in a store, and you don't have to like get killed or shot at.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And then you just get to like have cheeky little joke like, and for dessert.
Yeah. And also, I think it's them being, inherently somewhat creepy. I think they lean into that with Pete Serafinowicz because they light him from underneath.
Yeah,
so
he's
he
like
has
a ghost story guy.
Yeah, he has this weird underlighting happening.
Yeah, his eyes look sunken into his head.
Actually, here's a question that I want to ask you guys about. How do you all feel about John Wick's relationship with guns?
I was going to bring it up in the context of this scene. So, when the movie came out, Jordan Hoffman wrote an article for The Guardian about how the movie made him uncomfortable and because of the gun porn and all that. And the crux of the article was, okay, with everything that's going on with mass shootings, this movie was my limit. I guess it's only a matter of time before, you hit yours. It's a good article.
I'm pretty sure I read it when it
Yeah,
came
people
out.
were mad about it, but probably didn't read it. And that particular scene, it did make me uncomfortable on rewatch, now that I paid attention to what they were actually talking about. I love the world building. I love, the different people he visits and each of their roles. Like, he said he's a sommelier. And, everything is a code, and everything is very fancy and very efficient. And so when he's going in there to buy his guns, like, what, this German make, that Belgian make, they sound made up. I don't know anything about guns. Mm-hmm. But then at one point, when he asks for something either
the
really...
AR-15?
Yeah, when he asks for something really big or really fancy, he goes, the AR-15. And that's when, I felt something in my stomach drop a bit. Because that, that particular gun is very closely associated with a lot of well-known mass shootings.
It's the one that we constantly hear about in the news every time there's a mass shooting.
And so that did make me a little uncomfortable. And I was already a little on edge going into it, seeing it a couple of years later, just in terms of how am I going to feel about all these gratuitous headshots. And I managed to enjoy it for the most part, but it was a different experience this time, that's for sure.
It does feel tempered. Yeah. I know what you mean. And it's not like John Wick, even the first one, has the excuse of having, come out before these mass shootings felt like they became a very monthly occurrence, throughout the year. Because, that was 2014. And at that point, these sorts of stories were already coming out in the news. Yeah. So all three of these movies don't get to use that as an excuse as far as like, oh, it was a time when this wasn't such an oversaturated and much more sensitive subject or much more widely discussed subject. So yeah, I know what you mean. It did kind of make me feel uncomfortable. The problem with these movies is that they're also so silly and campy in a lot of ways, is like you just sit with that uncomfortable feeling.
Mitigating.
Yeah.
Like to have it be silly, like to do
it
like
is
a
mitigating.
jokey thing. They're probably hoping like it's less serious than like an arms dealer being like, and this is really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's have here Serafinowicz like call it the flan.
Yeah.
Like
call it creme brulee.
And then maybe people won't think about,
on
a
with your
bunch
day.
of dead kids. You know what I mean?
It's like the thing for me is, this is, while I love a lot of stuff about this scene, like I love Peter Serafinowicz. I love a lot of the like the food metaphors they use. It's really just when it getting into specifically like names of guns, as if like identifying actual guns that exist in the real world, and it's specifically the AR-15 one like reference that it just same thing, like stomach sinks a little bit. And I am totally fine with every other bit of like gun porn violence in these movies. I've never minded. I mean, like, we're gonna get into with like The Matrix and stuff like that. It's been a part of Keanu's career for a long time. And like, back to like John Woo movies and stuff like that. Just the like, endless barrage of like gunfire, in these like fantastical over the top shootouts. Even now, I get how it could bother people. Personally, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind the actual violence. It's just the talking about makes of guns. Weirdly, that that I'm a little bit less comfortable with.
Yeah.
And
That's odd.
If
Yeah.
I'm being perfectly honest, I have I just nothing stirred in me, and that could just be like a very American perspective.
It didn't
but
happen
like,
to
I'm
me
just
the first.
so callous.
It didn't happen to me the first time. It was just this time. For some
actually,
reason.
I thought about it the first time as well.
Okay.
And not to be
Yeah.
like I was
Before it was
a
cool.
sensitive boy 2 years ago. Yeah, no,
The thought flitted through my head and then like dissipated though. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, saying the model of the gun, just for that moment, it's just like ding, ding,
But you know
ding. Remember these stories, and then immediately he's back in Rome and everything's lit all neon, and then the thought just creeps back
here's my thing
into my head.
When it comes to like guns and movies, I like the Matrix method, where it's just guns, lots of guns, and then the guns appear.
Right, it's
and
like Zardoz. They just spew out of his mouth.
Right, but then they don't talk about what
Guns
they
are
are.
good.
They just grab a bunch of them, and then they're almost, and it's a level of like removal from reality.
Right.
But it's specifically like what. And the thing is like, I've never I don't play a lot of like first person shooter video games. I know nothing about guns. I don't think guns
Yeah,
are
like Call of Duty and stuff. They go. I mean, that's a pretty fetishy.
right. Like
That's where the make of gun is like very important.
So my feeling about guns is okay. I feel the same way about guns and cigarettes. I hate them in real life. I wish they were just illegal, but I love them in movies. I like them as just these like these things that look cool on screen in like this fantasy. And the more they talk about like the makes of guns and the models and what they do, that brings this level of reality into it that like
The third one's called Parabellum,
yeah.
so it's a make of gun, right?
It is a make of gun, but then I was reading a little bit more about it, and parabellum is also a little bit of wordplay. Parabellum means like
they get
the
into
start
it.
of a war
Yeah,
or something.
As opposed to antebellum.
Yeah,
That's
something
like the
that.
post-war thing.
They explain it in the movie. Yeah.
Oh,
But
but it is also a make of gun,
yeah.
and they did that with a
Well, I
knowing
think
wink.
there is a slight like, but I think it maybe was like a tougher decision, but like
Yeah.
I think a big part, maybe not so much in the first one, but in the second one, like it's most fans of this movie know that Keanu again put a lot of time into training to be like proficient in using all types of firearm, and he's like very good. And there's like all those videos of him training with like, military stunt coordinators and stuff. So there is a level
and they're
of
cool. Like I'll admit, like I'll watch those videos.
well, no,
like,
so
yeah,
his
it's
familiarity is like real, and it's another practical thing that he like spent a lot of time doing. And I think the stunt guys also must know how to use that kind of stuff. And so like a big part of what I noticed about the fandom from my like mild research is like a lot of them are into guns, are into Keanu's like realistic use of them and his like discipline with them, and like they're like, yes, that's a man who clearly knows what he's doing. I'm so sick of seeing these people in these movies, you hear it all the time, like holding a gun wrong, or like they have bad muzzle discipline, or they're we didn't hold your finger on the trigger, like all this shit
Here's
that's
the
like
thing,
minor.
We would get that in the YouTube comments in like 2011.
Yeah.
Where like Matt, we do a video where like we'll do like a little shootout, because again, like I like, as much as I hate guns in real life, I like making, like short films where there's like shootouts and stuff like that.
Right.
But like we would do a thing where you were like in a little shootout, and we'll just
Right.
get comments about like, oh my god, like he's holding the gun totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like his recoil is so inaccurate. Oh my god, like too many like that gun doesn't carry that many bullets and stuff like that, and just like people, and mostly through video games, I think, just like know so much about these. I will say, as much as I'm conflicted about that scene, what makes me more conflicted is I do like the way that it lets us know exactly how his arsenal works going into the catacombs fight, because
Right.
we know he's got the pistols, he's got the AR-15, he's got the shotgun.
That's what I was trying to get at, was like the make of gun is important because you're going
is.
to watch him use it, and there's a certain part of the fandom and a decent chunk of it that is going to want to know what it is so they can see him use it and judge whether or not he's handled it before. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
For me, it's not
Yeah.
even the fandom thing. It's just like, I think it's good storytelling.
It also just works,
I
yeah.
mean, it's the same thing as like when you lay out a heist sequence and they explain how they're going to do it, and then you watch them do it, and so and you understand the mechanics of it.
Right.
And it's the same thing, like we understand his battle strategy, and it does make the shootout more effective because it's like, oh, and now he's going to switch to this, and we know why. Anyway, the conversation about guns in cinema is too big to cover in one episode.
You got to touch on it, though. I agree.
Yeah.
Although, just if I could just stay on this point for just another second.
Please, look, you are our guest. I want to hit the points that you want to make.
Another reason I think I'm a little uncomfortable with the gun stuff in this movie, I don't even think it's because of the guns in and of themselves. I think if you have the same AR-15 conversation in the first John Wick, I don't think I would have reacted the same way beyond the scene itself. I think also because in this movie, both story-wise and both in terms of Keanu's performance, there's this sense of reluctance to everything he's doing, everything he's saying, and he has the signature, thing where he's almost talking through his teeth. In this movie almost translates to like, I hate doing this. I hate having to do this, because he is forced into killing a lot of people. But at the same time, the way it's filmed doesn't treat it that way. It still treats it very much as, look at this is awesome. So I did feel a bit of a disconnect in that regard.
That does make sense. And I think, is it for the whole movie, or for you, is it mostly just that the Rome section?
The Rome section, but then it does end up permeating for me because, even though it's a different set of people coming at him, John Wick as a character is still very much in this place of, I want to get out of this, I don't want to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And yet it's filmed almost in the exact same way as the shooting in the first movie, which is like, yeah, kill all these guys who killed his dog.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm excited to talk to you about the third movie, just because, without really giving anything away, because this is like, it picks up right from the last one. It's more like him, because he knows that he's broken the rules, and he knows the consequences of it. He is like ready to fight for his survival, and so there's less of a reluctance there. It's more like, he's like, they're all coming at him. He knows they're coming at him.
And he's the underdog.
It's
again.
also my theory too that he's just a psychopath. Like, that's the other thing.
He
is.
is.
Like, yeah, I think he's just kind of nuts. I mean, it's like he's like Michael Jordan of assassins. Like, he can't leave the league. Like, he just keeps playing and getting older, and like was apparently just a trash human being, like outside of his like one skill set.
Yeah, and his
But it made
relationship
him
with
the
his
best.
wife was when Michael Jordan did baseball.
Yeah,
And nobody liked
he
it.
tried. His marriage was his attempting of baseball. Yeah.
So some other characters do say that. Santino does question whether he's addicted to vengeance. And
I mean, in the mirror
Yeah.
section at the end, he really kind of digs into John's psyche. Like, I really like that section where he does kind of, he presents all these questions that I had kind of lingered in my mind.
Yeah. Should we get to that now or in a bit?
Wait. So, does anyone have anything else they want to say about the Rome section?
No, it blasts them all away.
Nah, kill the girl.
I do like that the party is like a much bigger version of the Red Circle scene, the Red Circle Club scene in
Yeah.
New York, and now it's just red squares everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, that didn't even occur to me.
Whoa.
Also, what is that band that's playing?
I don't know, man. It looked very stupid. It looked like a.
Was that Florence and the Machine?
No.
I just made a band name up.
No,
Don't
you
act
didn't.
like
No,
I did.
that's real.
Jake, you,
No, I didn't.
you did not. You Jake it. Oh my God, Jake
No,
just
no, no.
invented
Hear me
Florence and the
out.
Machine.
I
I know what you mean.
said it
I'm
as
just
a
fucking
joke.
with you,
Okay.
Jake. Yeah.
You guys suck.
God, I'm not an idiot. I know what you're trying to do.
We love you, Jake.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
but no, I don't. It looked. The problem is, like, I feel like how old is the director? There is a
Probably-
touch of, it's like 80s sort of lighting mixed with like early aughts musical tastes, because like
I'm gonna say the director's
I
48
mean, there was straight
years
up
old.
Marilyn Manson in the first one.
Well, that's one thing. Okay, I
That's
actually
like cyber goth industrial Euro trash music that they were playing at like Rome.
I want to get into some aesthetic stuff because I will say I appreciate that this movie does not have the like early 2000s like industrial rock playing. Like there is no like just like pop music on the soundtrack.
Right.
It's all the score, and then the only pop music is the diegetic pop music in this scene. And I don't know who this band is. I think
They're
that-
having a good time up there.
Honestly, I think it's a pretty effective choice for this because, the way it kind of like they're not in the Colosseum, but they're in this place where it's like a
Formerly sacred place.
a club mixed with like ruins of something. But I love
Yeah.
when it kind of like, you know, the camera like moves in from above, and then you just see, you know, then they cut into this close up of like the singer doing like these like long like wailing vocals, and it's the same kind of. Okay, here's the thing. And then one of the band members seems to be playing like an electric violin or something like that.
It reminded me of the band in The Fifth Element, like that opera singer when it just like she drops the beat suddenly.
That
Right.
lady who's basically a Twi'lek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's this sort of like ethereal vocals with
Yeah.
then, but to me, I was watching that and I was like, yeah, this is the kind of music that they would get for this kind of event in this kind of world. It like that fit like really nicely, and I felt like visually and like sonically, I thought like set the right kind of tone. Ooh, but
Visuals and sonicals.
but just talking about visuals, because there's a big change in this movie.
Sonicals.
Because the cinematographer in the first movie is Jonathan Sela, S-E-L-A. And then because David Leitch, the co-director of the first movie, then didn't direct this one because he went off to make Atomic Blonde and then Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, multiple other movies.
Yeah, this is all Stahelski.
Yeah, and but Jonathan Sela had been working. They had a prior working relationship, and so he went off and shot all of those movies. And they got a new cinematographer, Daniel Laustsen, who I really like, and is a really he has an interesting career. He's this Danish guy, and he shot the 1997 Guillermo del Toro movie Mimic.
Oh yeah.
Though his first American movie that he had a bad experience making. But Del Toro's main DP for all his movies was Guillermo Navarro. And then when Guillermo Navarro started directing stuff in 2014, Daniel Laustsen became Del Toro's main guy. And he shot Crimson Peak, he shot The Shape of Water, he's shooting his next movie. Wow. And so he's Del Toro's guy now. And he had shot various things, like he shot like the Silent Hill movie and stuff like that, but he was mostly...
That was a weirdly good movie.
Pyramid Head.
I've never seen it, but it looked nice. But he was a guy who mostly got stuck shooting like kind of like B or C grade like genre movies that would shoot in like Eastern Europe. Right, and then Del Toro started using him, and then immediately Stahelski picked him up for John Wick. And the aesthetic of this movie is pretty different than the first one. Like the first one, while it will have some like neon lighting and like use of like different colors for like interior club scenes. This movie leans way harder into like a very saturated,
right away,
like neon noir aesthetic. Like because a lot of the first movie is a kind of like ashy blue gray.
Right.
And this one is way more colorful, which I think makes a lot of sense for the very comic booky world of it.
I mean, the series between the first and the second one becomes more garish and flamboyant in its own way. So why not have the visuals match that?
I think Wanted a little bit. Think about, I don't know why.
Yeah, it turns it veers closer towards
Timur
what Wanted
Bekmambetov.
is. Yeah.
My favorite movie, Wanted.
And the movie gets funnier. John Wick 2 is funnier than John Wick 1.
Yeah.
As it goes on. You realize that these are actually kind of like... I almost wish they had done this retroactively then. It's like seeing the second one and the humor that's infused with it is a lot more apparent. And it makes me kind of wish that the first one had known to take a little bit more advantage. It does. The first one has a lot of jokes, and it is pretty funny. But...
I think
after
everything
seeing
becomes
the
a bit
second
more
one,
heightened in this one.
Since it becomes more heightened, I was like, this is actually like should be more of an action comedy in a weird way that plays it totally straight, because it does. The second one, there are so many beats that I was like laughing out loud as I'm watching.
I can't wait for you guys to see the third one.
When John Wick and Common are just walking down the Oculus and just covertly shooting each other and glaring at each other with sideways glances, that is like laugh out loud hilarious. That's so silly.
And I mean the kind of like fight montage before that with all the different assassins. I mean, like you've got that is it is pretty comedic.
It's played to be comedic. It's not unintentional. There's nothing. It's just meant to be funny on some level.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And that's what I was sort of like, bring the humor out more.
Again, I think that's a case of just like, everyone, especially Stahelski, just becoming more confident with this one. And like really, this is, I feel like where he is now like fully formed as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I am fully formed. I like the twist to the plot. Not the twist, but like I really love the device where, he kills Giannis. What's his name again?
Gianna.
No, Gianna's the name of the woman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Santino.
Santino. And then he's like, well, I mean, you killed my sister, so... I mean, what kind of brother would I be if I didn't try and kill you? Like that,
Yeah.
I loved that, like, turnaround. And
Well,
John's
yeah,
just
because
like, come on, man.
Yeah, it adds
Yeah.
to Santino's douchiness like tenfold because he gets that call and he's like, John, I can't believe you
John.
did this thing that I just asked you to do. And
What kind of brother would I be? Like,
Right.
That was
also,
so great.
Just
I will
hangs
say,
up
I know we
immediately.
kind of moved on from the Rome section,
Yeah.
but I think her death is nicely shot.
Oh, yeah.
Just like I like her get
Tastefully sexy.
right. Well,
As the blood fills up the bathtub.
yeah, it's I like the choice to like let her
yeah.
kill
Yeah.
herself.
And he kind of like holds her hand, or like, I don't know. It was like, that was effective in hinting at history that was pretty deep without much.
Right. I mean, like these movies love just giving you the a taste of a deeper
But I
greater
love
story.
that as a viewer. I don't know.
This to me is the Star Wars Episode 2 of John Wick movies, and I mean that in a very positive way. Because if you look at a character like
Tell me.
like Dexter Jetster, for instance, he is one of the few characters in those movies where when you see him interact with Obi-Wan, you know that there is a living, breathing history that these characters share.
Yeah, I can't
Even
even
when Watto comes back.
Hello.
Annie? Little Annie?
but in episode
Deep
2,
veins of history
this
running
time
through them.
Watto has a little metal hat.
That's right, he
Yeah.
does.
So you know this is a new, a darker
metal
Watto.
scruffy yarmulke, but
Dark
definitely-
But
I can't tell you. I am
Dark-ass
so
Watto.
happy that already episode 2 of this podcast and our guest made a Dexter Jetster
Dexter
reference.
Jetster, that's, yeah.
fan favorite.
Yeah, maybe the alien. Okay, a lot of the aliens.
favorite alien.
Look, Dexter Jetster. He's the best character from the
Yeah,
prequels.
mine's Joe Yowza.
Joe Yazza, Droopy McCool over here.
Yeah, but so in the Star Wars prequels, a lot of the aliens have extremely placeable accents. As in, you know what their accents are meant to be referencing.
You know what kind of racism they're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Dexter Jetster
Doing a
is
big
fascinating.
I like
Racism.
placeable racism.
Yeah. But
I
Dexter
don't like to be
Jetster,
confused.
Dexter is so interesting because it's not meant to be any kind of race, but he's
Yeah.
played by this
We're talking about Dexter Jetster. right?
Yes, but he's played, played by an Australian actor who feels like he's just doing a combination of like 4 different accents.
G'day, I'm Dexter Jetster.
I was almost New Zealand a little bit.
I can't do Australian.
Yeah.
Australian's really hard.
I think New Zealand's harder than Australian. But
It's
that's
cool
just
because
me.
one of my good friends is from Australia, so I can do it. Hello.
Anyway, please return to your Star Wars Episode 2 analogy
Some
because I
stupid
want
upside
this.
down made up country.
That was pretty much it, in that any two characters who interact in John Wick Chapter 2, you know what kind of relationship they have. Like Ian McShane's character, it acts almost like a father figure to John Wick. He calls him Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And the familiarity between the characters, like when John Wick and Carmen first interact, they've come across each other before. And
Cassian.
And
Beautiful name.
the exchange they have is Cassian asks him good night, and he says, I have it written down here, just a moment. Afraid so. So they both know that, you know, this is their job, this is the world that they live in, but they also both know, like, sometimes it means getting your hands dirty in the wrong way. And that's the exchange that makes Cassian understand, oh, he just killed Gianna. And they clearly have an understanding between them, and which is, I think, another reason why John Wick, you know, doesn't kill him. Although it does make it a bit weird that he doesn't kill Ruby Rose's character, because, you know, you need her for the sequel. But he
Trying to say
fought-
neither of them are in the 3rd movie.
Oh, I thought she was for some reason.
No, I just
Anyway, it's weird that he doesn't.
No spoilers.
Oh, okay.
They're not in it.
Never mind then. It's weird that he doesn't kill her because they don't have the same history. But the feeling I
Yeah.
got is he leaves Cassian alive because, out
Yeah.
of
Well, also,
courtesy.
Was it hinted at that Cassian also was like maybe had a big old crush on Gianna?
They do have a relationship in some form, because she says something like, I wouldn't be able to do this without you, or where would I be without you, or something like that.
Yeah. What I do, the thing is, who is it that? Oh, it's Lawrence Fishburne's character,
Right,
the Bowery King, makes the reference to the time that he encountered John before, and John basically gave him this opportunity to survive. And it's similar with Cassian. He leaves the knife there and is like, you can potentially survive this. With Ruby Rose, I got more of the sense that she is going to bleed out. He didn't leave like the knife in her still.
Okay.
And I love their final exchange. It's one of my favorite. I mean, like, I like her character a lot. I mean, she has a cool look. She speaks entirely in sign language. It's just fun. I mean, like, a lot of these people are like, who has a cool look? But her final exchange, where she says, "Be seeing you," and he just looks at her and goes, "Uh-huh."
That's a good one.
But yeah, it's the same thing. Just like, there, all these little interactions give you a sense of like this larger world that I want to know more about, and even like this is why they're gonna make a Continental TV show. Like there is
The Continental.
that's what it's called.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's just funny.
But yeah, there's a lot more to do there. But wait, so okay, let's.
It's like Faulty Towers. You just have this bumbling guy that can't run the Continental properly.
I do have another point about the world building really quick.
Yeah.
Just so I know we're still stuck on the Rome section, but the
Dude,
we're
Rome's
almost
a
2 hours into this episode.
Rome's a
man.
beautiful place.
the
Let's
location
stay
of,
there.
the location of that scene is really interesting because on top you have this this lavish party going on, but it's quite literally built on death in a way because it's on top of catacombs.
Yep.
It's also an interesting desecration of culture in a way, where you have this sort of decadent thing going on in what appears to be ruins. And what I was really interested in was an exchange between Gianna and a character called Akoni. There appear to be a lot of Nigerian characters at that place, and he says something along the lines of,
I forgot about this.
he says something along the lines of, what, you're taking our territory or something like that. And I'm not sure where he's referring to, but there was almost this colonial aspect to it when, Gianna rises to whatever table.
The high table.
The high table, where it's like, okay, we can do whatever we want. And granted, the focus of a lot of that becomes we're going to take New York. But there's something very specifically charged about her telling a Nigerian leader, it seems like, yeah, what's yours is ours now. And that coupled with the fact that there appears to be like a weird assassin class system in New York as well, it makes me really curious about like what really goes on behind the scenes. What is the high table? What are they allowed to do?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, they haven't fully explained it yet.
Well, that sounds like a John
and
Wick
Pat has
3.
knowing
That's the
looks.
problem with
He's
talking about
giving
this
us
movie knowing that it's
knowing
coming
looks.
out. It's like I'll retroactively have like more fully fleshed out thoughts.
Yeah.
We'll
Anyway,
talk about it on our next episode.
Those are my thoughts on colonialism in John Wick Chapter 2.
Thank you for bringing that up because I totally forgot about that scene, and it is this kind of throwaway scene. And like honestly, if I ever get to talk to, hey, Chad Stahelski, come on the show, or also Derek Kolstad, writer of the movies, come on the show. We'd love to ask you many questions. But yeah, I am curious about that.
Are we
that
missing
scene.
like? Is there some like historical significance to that I just don't know about? Like specifically like Nigeria and Italy seems like
No,
that wouldn't be
I don't
the
think
case
there's
at
a.
all.
No, I think because again, the High Table isn't a specifically Italian organization,
Right, yeah.
But it
Hey.
just seems like. Granted, we don't see very much of them. I don't know if we do in the next movie.
Oh, what if the high table's in Denver and they get freaking
And they get
high
up.
and they're just a bunch of freaking cool dudes that
Yeah.
contract out a bunch of murders internationally.
Right. That's good.
Yeah,
The point
a
is that it's
cool
just very
idea.
racially charged in an interesting way.
Right,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
And I'll say is you'll learn more in the next movie.
Oh, boy.
But so really
Yes.
from here, so we have this sequence where John is back in New York. Everyone's trying to kill him. $7 million bounty on his head. He fights off all these people. He kills people with a pencil. He also gets. Wait, is it the violin woman who shoots him in the side? Yeah.
It's just because then all these street buskers and homeless people are apparently just waiting to kill somebody, and so then he's running around and everyone is a potential assassin.
Right,
And-
which is again just part of this world that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, okay, wait. Here's a question for everybody: favorite kill in the movie?
Oh goodness.
Oh, jeez.
I think
I know.
You're just good boys.
Wowzers.
Trying
Just trying to know.
think of some murders.
Yeah, I know, but mine's like not an interesting answer. But it's just so satisfying is when he fucking shoots Santino in the Continental right at the end. That is so
Yeah,
satisfying.
you're just like break the rules, John.
yeah.
Like fuck the consequences.
It is, and because they
Just
built
eating
up
like
the weight.
asparagus and steak.
Yeah,
Like,
because they built up
he's
the
talking
weight.
He's talking about the duck fat,
Yeah, duck
Yeah.
fat. That's what it is. That's like
and he's like, you could stay here for so long and eat so many different meals. It's like maybe I'll never leave. I'll just
I
live
haven't
here.
felt so good about somebody getting fucking cracked in the face this time by a bullet. But the only other time I felt this way was at the end of the movie Misery when what's his
Bates.
name? Kathy
Or
Bates
no,
gets what's the actor's name?
Caan?
James
Caan?
Caan. James Caan cracks Kathy Bates over the head with a typewriter at the end because that movie is just
Spoilers
such
for
a
Misery.
Yeah, sorry. That movie is just such a buildup of just James Caan getting tortured, and like I watched this when I was like 13, and the reaction was so visceral. I don't think I've ever done this before or since, where I jumped up out of my seat when somebody finally like delivered a finishing blow to another character, and I was just like so full of adrenaline after I saw that.
Yeah.
And this was like the second closest, which means like I sort of like butt bounced like an inch off the couch, but still there was a reaction
wait.
there.
That's Jake's pull quote for the DVD case. I butt bounced with excitement.
just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I think you should skip me. I don't know.
We'll come
Yeah.
back to you, Siddhant.
Don't.
probably the large East Asian man who he shoots in the head, but he doesn't die.
That was so weird.
I love that one.
and I feel weird about it just because I don't know. I have this weird thing whenever even like a disposable henchman dies in a movie. I have this thought like, that guy had like a whole life. So
Yeah.
Wait, have you ever read the comic book The Invisibles?
no, I haven't.
There is one issue of that tells the entire life story of a random henchman right before the hero kills him.
I would love to read
Yeah.
that.
Have you
It's
seen the
pretty
movie
great.
Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery? Because they have a joke about that too.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
No, one of my favorite scenes in, I think, any blockbuster in the last few years is in Doctor Strange when he kills, again, a disposable henchman by accident, I think. Or maybe his cape does the killing, and he goes and checks on the guy and then gets freaked out because he killed someone.
Mm-hmm.
And American movies just don't do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
No.
But anyway,
much time.
putting that aside, that was a fun kill.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's one of my favorites.
It's funny when somebody's so strong that they can get shot in the brain and survive. It's crazy.
So I think mine, it might be the pencil move where he puts it through the guy's ear, and then
Yeah, that's
because
good.
it's one of the kills that like you really feel. It's like I feel like my muscles kind of like clench up, but then like my face
Oh
turns.
no, my earwax.
Yeah, you had PTSD, dude.
I'm going to make a Shrek.
No, actually, that's what I did when I was watching the movie. I stuck a pencil in my own ear, being like, "Oh, maybe that'll work." But no, just because the guy's head is down on the counter, and he like,
yeah.
and he puts the pencil in, and then like puts all his weight to
I
like
know.
shove it down in, and it's like it's painful, but it's also like, God damn it, that's like he's really doing it. That is like that is commitment.
That is-
Because like,
yeah.
look, John is a man of focus.
Yeah.
And-
Sheer will incarnate. That's Ethan Hunt, but whatever.
No. Of sheer will is John Wick.
It's John. Okay.
Yeah, no. Ethan Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny.
Good God.
That just sounds so silly. Yeah.
living manifestation of
If I can bounce off
Scientology.
that real quick, I love Keanu's run in this movie because it looks like he's about to fall over.
Yes.
Yeah. What is up with his run?
Because I think he's just been shot a whole bunch.
I
No,
maybe
because he
it
kind of
is.
runs like that in the first one too.
No,
doesn't he?
he's always had an interesting run.
His body isn't like. It's not as like
Yeah.
well-oiled a machine. Like it doesn't. Yeah,
It looks
okay.
like he has like a leg injury
Well,
from like the Matrix movies that
to-
never heal properly.
To compare cinematic runners, so Tom Cruise is a short guy, and like his whole like
low center of gravity.
yeah, his whole body is like this like coiled machine, and that like moves like robotically. So like when he runs, it's like everything like works perfectly together.
He's just all pistons.
Yeah, and Keanu is taller,
Yeah.
and he's a little lankier. And even if you look at, I saw The Matrix on the big screen for the first time recently, and I was like just looking at the chase scene in that. Everyone forgets that The Matrix has like a great foot chase as well when he's just running from Agent Smith at the end, and Keanu has this really interesting run. He kind of like leans forward and he swings his arms up like really high. Like as he's running, it's kind of like a flaily run, but it's also it's good because but I think it's effective because there is like kind of like a desperation to it. Like he's not looking cool; he's just like trying to get away as fast as he can. And in this one especially, and it's something like it's in the trailer for the third one. The movie basically opens with him like in the rain, just like running with his dog.
So
Through
tired.
Times Square.
He's so tired.
It's the same kind of thing. He's not looking cool. He's like injured and hurt and tired, and he's just trying to like propel himself forward like as quickly as possible. And again, Keanu, great physical performer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Truly, I did feel the exhaustion at the end of this one.
Yeah. So really, okay, we're more than 2 hours into this episode.
All right,
we should probably wrap it up because then really what
Lightning
happens is. He goes and hangs out with Lawrence Fishburne, who is having the time of his life in this movie.
Yeah.
And, I mean...
As I live and breathe.
Machines and armies.
I love his delivery of the line, "Somebody please get this man a gun."
yes. I mean... And it's great because
Reveling.
Keanu, understated actor, and like Lawrence Fishburne, he's just going for it.
Yeah.
And
He's sort of Morpheus meets the Oracle in this movie.
yeah.
Very good, yeah.
Specifically Morpheus in that one scene in The Matrix Reloaded. You know, when he talks about for 100 years.
That is one of the weirdest speeches. The emphasis
we'll
is so
get to
weird.
that.
Yeah.
I do wish that after he says, "Somebody please get this man a gun," it had just cut to like action or something, because then you go again into this scene of like explaining a firearm or something like that again. But
Yeah,
and
I do like the 7-bullet thing.
but that doesn't go anywhere. They do away with it like immediately, and then he just gets another gun. I thought
It is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they do away with it pretty quickly, but there is the thing of like, it at least sets it up that he can't just rush in shooting everybody. Like he's got to be.
that's exactly what he does.
Well, he doesn't really.
It is
he-
kind of cast aside.
He's like. He does wait for as long as he can,
Like 3 seconds.
and then he's very deliberate, and then for that whole fight scene, he's taking guns off of everybody.
Yeah.
He'll like take a gun, shoot someone, grab a new one, and it's not that it's like it's a different vibe than, you know, like the Catacombs fight where he's just loaded like completely. And like I always enjoy that, just the like, you know, having them run out of bullets.
I do like him throwing guns at people.
That's
That's very fun.
My favorite John Wick move, throwing the empty gun. Yeah, there's the moment in the trailer for the third one where he like has the big assault rifle that he just chucks over his head.
You're
which
out
it-
of bullets, Mr. Wick. Not so. I got one more gun-shaped bullet coming right at you. Ugh. Just throws it right in his face.
Which I mean,
guns. Nah, dude. Look, check it out.
Just
Flexing his arms.
I thought
rips his sleeves off.
And he just looks like Vin Diesel the rest of the time, just ripped off sleeves on his suit.
Yeah.
and then we get the big final shootout
Yeah.
where they just go full Lady from Shanghai slash Samantha
Beautiful.
Golden Gun.
Yeah.
And
There's a voiceover constantly saying stuff like deeper reflections into the nature of the self, and it's like, no, it's just shoot people, it's fine. Don't worry
Right.
about that.
But it also just adds the fun thing of like they're in a museum
Yeah.
and they're in an exhibit. And one of my favorite little moments in that,
art exhibit.
where they kind of do like a John Woo like replaying it 3 times, is just when Keanu crashes through one of the mirrors. It's just like he doesn't have time for this. He just wants it to end.
I want to see what the run up to that jump through the mirror was like, because it looks like someone threw him through it.
It does. And he's also like, again,
I don't want to do it.
There's something that I just enjoy so much about watching like John Wick's mental process through these scenes. It's like there's the one good part where he's like hiding behind one wall and he's reflected on another one, and then a guy shoots at his reflection, which then tells him, oh, that guy is over there, and he shoots him through the wall. Oh, okay. Anytime
I know what you mean, yeah.
Anytime he shoots someone through a wall, I just get excited.
That happens again. It happens in the first movie. He does it again in the museum this time, where he first shoots the guy's foot and then shoots him through the wall.
I love it.
That
I love
did
it.
rock.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my favorite kill.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. And then he fights Ruby Rose, and he says, "Uh-huh." and then we basically
little
skip ahead
rascals.
to the Continental, where he's just had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
And does anyone have any takes or thoughts on this section,
So
on the climactic
satisfying
section?
when he shoots him.
I like it because I got the sense this time watching it that he isn't just doing it to get people off his back. He's kind of doing it to save New York in a way. You know, John Wick is like single-handedly avenging, basically.
Just wait until you see the third movie.
Okay.
Yeah, because it feels like, you know, he obeyed the rules and what happened was, you know, he basically had to do something he didn't want to do to an effect he knew was like going to be bad for New York. So then he had to break a rule now to make things right, kind of squaring in his own moral code.
He does tell Lawrence Fishburne that something along the lines of that he's gonna like get the heat on him or something like that. I don't remember the exact exchange.
Yeah, well, basically, it's like if Santino like sticks around and like runs New York, he's gonna just like take you down because he's just gonna like be bad for everything. So
And that's where the rules are leading to probably like a full scale like assassin takeover of New York.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they're still gang, essentially. It's still like, you know, just sort of like ruled by violence. So like,
I'm gonna go with my take that the rules are colonialism.
okay.
Sure, whatever.
look, if you write a piece about like where the headline is how the John Wick movies are actually an exploration of colonialism, you'll get a lot of clicks.
I don't have the energy at this point.
Yeah, that sounds like...
I'm not
That
saying.
sounds like Patrick. That sounds like discourse.
Yeah.
I do not have time for that.
I'm not saying do it. I'm saying it'll get hit.
Fair enough.
Look,
It will.
look.
Just make that the title of the podcast.
There you go. And then it ends again back at Bethesda Terrace, which is the place where hits happen, but a hit doesn't happen. They're doing him a solid.
Right.
Yeah, and they're giving him 1 hour lead time.
Yeah, and apparently that dude just knows everybody in Central Park.
And that was, talking about like a series that really throws back all of these Matrix illusions.
Yeah, the stop.
I mean, the stop of everybody in Bethesda Terrace and then snapping the fingers and they're walking again.
Yeah, he
Yep.
doing Morpheus.
Yeah, he doing Morpheus.
The question
Seriously.
is, where's the Rob
Seriously.
Dugan?
Where's the Rob Dugan? Where's those Furious Angels coming back in? He starts running.
Jake, that is Club to Death.
Yeah.
Furious Angels is in Reloaded. We will cover this on our.
But this is the second one, and it's Reloaded.
Why is it called John Wick Reloaded? And then John Wick Revolutions.
Yeah.
Because John Wick reloads so many times.
He does. He
did
reloads quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's actually great at it. He does this like kind of like sideways like reload like check the I don't know. He always flips the gun over to check
Make sure
something
one's
on
in
it.
a chamber. Or
I don't know
something
how
like that.
guns work.
I do have to
You
say,
got one in the chamber, bro.
I am annoyed a little bit that if they called the third one Parabellum, I now wish it wasn't just called Chapter 2. I wish it was just John Wick : something else that was
No,
cool.
see, Jake, each one is going to add an extra part to the title until the title is like 20 words long.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
John Wick Chapter 4, Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Yeah, colon something else.
Yes.
Yeah. And then a chevron and
I know. I mean, yeah, overall, like,
asterisk.
thinking of like the
Interrobang.
end of this movie and like, John Wick's choice in the climax, my main thing is my main issue is I still wish there was like a slightly clearer sense of just like what he wants and his own personal goals, because it's so clear in the first movie. But beyond that, I love the action. I love the world building. I love the character. I just have a blast with this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked quite seriously about a movie that, all said and done, I don't take that seriously. I mean, like, it's a very solid action movie, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a good time at the theaters.
Yeah, I guess I like doing the podcast because it makes me try and like come up with these takes where normally I'd just be like, John Wick, I saw it. It was good. I guess he's kind of like a little bit of an empty character, but like whatever. I mean, I just want to see him go bang and like run around.
Make a boom boom on people's faces.
I'm just going to say I really like the final scene when he's running away and people are looking at him, and some people are probably looking at him because they want to kill him. Some people are like, who's that weirdo running with a dog?
Yeah.
But you don't know which is which.
Also, he still has blood on him.
Yeah, and so there's this intense sense of paranoia that got me really excited for the third one, even when I saw it a couple of years ago. I think, honestly, as much as I like John Wick 2, my biggest takeaway from it is give me more.
Yeah.
You're trying so hard to hold back.
I know. Like,
It's great. It means they will.
I'm
right?
excited to see 3 again, and
Yeah,
it's
we're
just like,
watching it together.
oh yeah, wait, can you make it?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, great. We're saying this on mic now.
Yeah.
So you'll find out
go
next
find
time.
Go find both of these guys.
Yeah. But also, like talking about 2 right now, I'm realizing how much like 2 is necessary to get to 3, and how much 3 like delivers on the promise of 2.
We'll see about that. I'm gonna bring my thinking cap and my critical glasses
Oh yeah.
And so I
and my
think
hole poking coat.
And I'm gonna go in drunk.
The other thing is that I was drunk watching too, and it was very late. So like part of the problem, I'm also hungover today. I'm a degenerate. It's turning out, but
pray for Matt.
So like I just didn't have a tons of clear memory about some of this stuff. So like when you were like, "What was your favorite kill?" I'm like, I don't know, man. He shot so many people.
So I think that's the end of this, because we all have to have things to do.
Yeah.
So
This has been an extra thick episode.
Dummy thick.
I gotta catch the L train before it stops running.
yes,
Oh
you gotta
God,
do that.
you have to go on the L.
So
You're gonna take a massive L trying to get home.
Siddhant, please tell us where people can find your work on the internet and just like follow you.
Sure, you can follow me at Siddhant Adlakha on Twitter. I also have a website, siddhantadlakha.com. And all my work is there. You can read most of it at /film, Polygon, the former Village Voice, which is unfortunately no more. Got some stuff coming up at Vulture /New York Magazine.
Nice.
Ooh.
And just everywhere that's still, hiring people to write. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are becoming fewer and fewer
ever-shrinking
every
world.
day. So hey, thank you so much
course.
for coming on to talk about our buddy John.
Yes.
John Slick.
Yes, thank you.
Always great.
Yeah. All right, and we don't have social media things set up for this podcast yet,
Yeah,
but
I
so
ain't
I'll go.
shit.
I'll
Part-time
add-
Rogue, at Part-time Rogue on Twitter. Do it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, thank
at
you. Please write
part-time
down-
rogue.
And if
Exactly.
you don't believe me, just watch.
Come on.
My wife.
Hey everyone, this is Patrick. Like a month after we recorded this episode, because now we do have social media stuff set up. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Keanu Podcast. Send us some emails, keanupodcast@gmail.com. You should go join our subreddit at r/Thrillums, where you can talk about the episodes with other fans of the show. And we'll be back here in 1 week, next Tuesday, for some Parabellum action. So we'll see you then.